Okay, we will convene the special meeting of the DWP Board. These proceedings will be broadcast on Channel 35, and you need to check with the channel on the time. Item number 1 on the agenda is opening remarks by me, and I don't have any opening remarks. Item number 2 is report briefing by the General Manager. Mr. General Manager.
And yes, Mr. President and Commissioners, I actually have no comments for my report either in the interest of moving the meeting along.
And by the way, Barbara, roll call.
Here we go. Commissioners Berard, Fleming, Funderburk, Levine, and Noonan present.
Thank you. Item number 3, comments and or requests from commissioners relating to department operations. Do any commissioners, I see a finger, Commissioner Berard?
I wondered if it's possible that we can have some kind of update from staff regarding our concerns about customer service and the emergency line for water and power, and then also I also brought up about the shortage of staff for the solar hotline. I actually called the solar hotline myself to see when I'd get a call back. And I did say I was Commissioner Berard, and I did get a call back 2 weeks later. So I think, we talked about that and that more staff was needed. And I just wondered where we are and all that.
I don't see that Sharon Grove is here, but I can give you a quick update. Number 1, we have done a number of things. We have, as I think was discussed at a prior board meeting, we have instituted what we call a virtual hold, and that callback feature is now working, but for circumstances when we still get an incredibly high volume. There's still been some issues with that. We're working with the vendor on fixing the feature on that, but it is generally working well. Our call times, our wait times are down about half of what they were on average now. That's part because of that feature. It's part because we had suspended credit collection issues associated with these estimated bill issues that we've had. So just to be clear, if we have someone who has a long-standing credit problem with us, we're still moving forward on those. This is not a situation where we're avoiding collecting from people who legitimately should be paying, but that has cut down the volume of calls as well. We are training additional people, and we're bringing on we have 12 additional customer service representatives on. We have bringing another 50 temporary that we'll have on for a significant period of time as we go through not only this, but we go through our efforts to ultimately move to monthly billing, which is much further down the road. So I think so far things are getting much better on it. It's not perfect yet, but it does get better every day.
I think the last meeting, Shannon mentioned that they had adopted something I had suggested, that when people call in, that the first thing that they hear is, do you have trouble? And then those people don't have to wait, that they're taken first. And if you have trouble, I think it's press 1 or say the word trouble. And I think that's really going to help a lot.
It has, and we've also, that was there before, but it was buried down several points down. You had to wait on the phone for a while. Didn't used to be a problem, but obviously because of this short-term situation it is. So we moved that up to the first item that comes up. So that is working, and we've heard good feedback from that in those circumstances. Typically comes about when people are identifying a water break or they have a power outage.
Now, have you considered hiring part-timers for the solar hotline?
We are evaluating overall our entire solar program and not just with respect to the hotline, but also in terms of our inspections and uptake on our contracts and the like. So we're evaluating that across the board right now.
Good. Thank you very much.
Other Commissioner comments or requests? Hearing none, we'll move to item 4, public comments, and I see there are 3. Barbara?
Okay, the first speaker is Steve Twining, and please limit your comments to 2 minutes. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Steve Twining. First of all, I'd like to congratulate the new commissioners, and I'm very happy that we have some neighborhood council people on the commission, and also to have our ratepayers advocate where he belongs at this table. My name is Steve Twining. I live at 1535 Roscommere Road, Los Angeles 90077. I've lived at my home over 40 years. I live in the fire belt of the hills of LA. My neighborhood was customized in the Bel Air fire of 1963. I represent ratepayers and middle-class senior citizens. I've been on the Neighborhood Council MOU since its inception and have taken the DWP tour to Owens Lake and the source of the gravity-fed aqueduct that serves Los Angeles. I'm President Emeritus of the Bel Air Beverly Crest Neighborhood Council and Chairman Emeritus of the Federation of Hillside and Canyons, some 44 homeowners associations in the hills from Los Feliz to Pacific Palisades. I'm also on the leadership committee of the RAC, which is 13 neighborhood and community councils on the west side. I helped to preserve Lower Stone Canyon, and several people from the water department will recognize me from those years. Water is a key to the survival of LA. Why must 3.85 million people, LA ratepayers, pay exorbitant amounts to benefit some 50 property owners surrounding Owens Lake? Some 20% of our water bills are going to cover Owens Lake. In my opinion, tilling and gravel should be used exclusively to cover the lake today. Perhaps California prisoners could be utilized to make gravel in a humane manner from LADWP land, not high-priced DWP labor. Another note, desalination should be thoroughly investigated. The cost of MWD water has grown 47% in an 18-month period. Desalination could be used to provide water to the southern portion of the DWP territory.
Could you wrap up your remarks, please?
Okay. I do represent neighborhood councils. Solar panels, windmills, or on land or in the ocean, and wave technology could be employed to provide power for desalination. We seem to be in a drought situation. I recently visited the Orange County water filtration plant located adjacent to their sanitation plant in northern Orange County. Virtually all water is recycled. The same should be done in LA. Everyone taking that tour gets to drink the water that comes originally from the sanitation. Okay, one other brief thing. We're responsible for the ratepayers advocate coming into existence and defeat of Measure B. We are fighting to keep Ron Nichols in his job, and I have personally notified the mayor that we would like him to remain in his position as an industry expert. One other aside, my meter was not read the last billing cycle. I called the DWP 3 times on hold for over an hour, including an hour after the last time. And I don't think that's acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is John Lee.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, good morning. Happy holidays to you. My name's John Lee. I represent T-Mobile USA here in Los Angeles, and I'm speaking before you this morning because I wanted to plant a seed. Beginning January, sometime in 2014, you will be getting to see and review and approve, hopefully, a master lease agreement that will provide a mechanism for the wireless industry to locate its wireless facilities on DWP properties. It's a very good joint public-private partnership between one public utility and basically another public utility. So I wanted this new board membership to know about that, because it's been approximately 3 years in the working with your predecessors. And so as this item moves forward to this board, I wanted to extend an open invitation for myself as well as T-Mobile's representative, Albie Krockenberg, to answer any questions, to address any concerns, to the extent it is appropriate, of course, and to answer all your questions and hopefully get this thing across the finish line after a significant amount of time. Thank you again for your consideration.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the next speaker is Albert Krockenberg.
Good morning. Thank you for your time today. To dovetail on what John Lee said, my name is Albert Krockenberg. I am a development manager for T-Mobile. I'm part of the development of sites and building of sites and maintaining them. My comment today is basically to discuss our landlord-tenant relationships. We find it very difficult to conduct business with DWP. We find it very difficult to conduct modifications of our sites. We find it very difficult, time constraints, that when we submit applications to actually make a change, it could be almost a year to a year and a half before those applications get traction. That relationship has been challenging for us, and to the point where we're considering moving multiple sites from DWP property, and that's sad for us and sad for DWP in the sense that I think the real estate department with DWP has a chance to become a huge revenue stream for wireless carriers, but there are so many restrictions on how we operate and how we do that, and not saying restrictions that should be in place based on home security. We understand that, but we find it very difficult on the power side specifically to get work done. With that said, basically a question for the board is, that DWP want to grow a relationship with wireless carriers to maximize some of the property and real estate that they have in place. We want to do business with you, but presently DWP is a last choice for us because of so many restrictions. In addition to what John Lee said, we've been waiting for an MLA, and that MLA has been hindering us to make future decisions on what we want to do moving forward. We would love the chance to talk about that MLA in detail once we see it, but the challenge is, again, is that there are so many instances where we find it difficult to even get applications submitted, redundancies, responses, that we're in a position now of removing sites from DWP property. And 4, 5, 6 years ago, we wanted to build more sites for DWP property. If you take a minute and look at how much revenue is coming from wireless carriers, you can see there's a potential to grow revenue for DWP. If there's more workable agreements, more workable responses, and more workable SLAs to respond back to carriers. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's another public comment card.
Who is it from? I don't have one for item 4. Another one for item 4?
Yes, it was Jim Enstrom. Dr. Enstrom.
Well, go ahead.
I have that for item 18.
Can I do it now? Yes.
Hi. Hello. My name is Dr. James Enstrom. I've had a long career as an epidemiologist at the UCLA School of Public Health, and I'm an expert in the health effects of air pollution in California. And I would like to request that the board postpone the vote on item 18, which is the Owens Lake Dust Mitigation Project Phase 7A, at least until you've been able to evaluate the process called coordination, which is explained in the National Environmental Protection Act, where there is a dispute between a city like Los Angeles and a regulatory agency like the Great Basin Unified Air Pollution Control District involving an EPA regulation like the PM10 standard. I brought a November 27th letter from the City of Reading to CARB, where they're asking for coordination regarding waiver of the CARB diesel regulation. This 9-page letter explains the entire process of coordination, and I think it's something that the DWP commissioner should examine carefully and see if it's applicable to the situation regarding Owens Lake. Also, I have a letter from the Air Pollution Control Officer Shady to CARB from last year, where he is also requesting a waiver of the Great Basin from the CARB diesel regulations because he's claiming the air is too clean in the Great Basin. So I think this letter also shows an approach that Shady's using to get his area out of one regulation while he's imposing another regulation on the ratepayers here in Los Angeles. Also, I request if there's a way to make independent measurements around the lake of PM10 levels, particularly where the residents live. I believe that you'll find that there's basic compliance, and that Shady's using outlier measurements of PM10 to justify this dust mitigation. And I think these independent measurements could easily be made by DWP or other air basins. And I'd like to think that have the board examine less expensive dust mitigation policies that are being used in the Mojave Desert and the Coachella Valley. These are things that should be examined for comparison with the way it's being done in Owens Lake. And I think that the new board should re-examine the Phase 7A settlement that was reached by getting input from scientific experts like myself, from other air pollution control officers like Eldon Haston of the Mojave Desert Air Quality Management District, and from neighborhood council representatives like Steve Twining. I think we all need to provide more input, and we haven't really been given this opportunity. And so
Could you wrap up your remarks, please?
I really would appreciate this, and I think it's a travesty to waste 30 billion gallons of water on Owens Lake, especially in the drought year we're having right now in Los Angeles. So thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you very much.
Can I leave these letters?
Please.
Someone?
Send it to the officer.
Thank you.
Okay, that
Are there
was
other
the-
cards, Barbara?
Yeah, that was the last card for 4.
Okay, we will move to agenda item 5 and welcome our ratepayer advocate in person back to his position. Welcome back, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. I have no specific comments today other than some comments on a couple items later.
We will look forward to those. Okay, we move to the consent calendar, and I will ask commissioners which items on the consent calendar they would like to remove from the consent calendar.
8 and 14.
Okay, 8 and 14 are removed from the consent calendar. Others? Okay, so that leaves on the consent calendar items 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Is there a motion to approve those items? Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Those are approved. Okay, the next item is item 8. I need to recuse myself from item 8, so I will hand the virtual gavel over to Vice Chairman Funderburk and leave the room, and someone can let me know when it's safe to return.
Thank you. This is the, item 8 is the bid number 505, furnish, deliver, and pick up heavy trucks and trailers on a fully maintained, as-needed bear rental basis.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tom Patzloff, Fleet Operations.
Michael Sullivan, Fleet Operations.
Is there any questions in particular related to this? Or?
Sure. I just, every 2 weeks when we come back here, and I saw this morning on my desk, there was kind of an update from Mr. Nichols. But every couple of weeks when we're here, we're looking at something like this, right? And they always seem to use, there seems to be a different logic depending on what folks want at the end of the day. So sometimes we're getting ones that say the purchase is really necessary. Here's how much money we'll save over the long term with a purchase. Other times it's why a rental works. So I just like, in this one again, because it seems we just did a big deal with Hertz and with Enterprise, right, 2 weeks ago? And it's always around $5 million. So if you can walk me through this one, why this makes more sense to rent these things, what vehicles it's replacing, I would just appreciate it.
Okay, the previous spec that the Commissioners approved was Spec 504. That was with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. That was for the smaller vehicles, pickup sedans, that type of stuff. Spec 505, which is here today, is the primary bidder or primary award will be going to Hertz Enterprises. This particular spec has things like utility trucks, large dump trucks, let's see here, water trucks, things that are actually more construction. It's larger type equipment. And this is a spec that, you know, we renew on a regular basis through the last 10, 15 years. We evaluate it each time it comes up. It just so happens that you guys happen to get 2 rental specs within 2 board meetings. You won't see me up here for probably another 3 months, I hope, but they go in cycles. Every 3 years we do renew them, and we try to renew them before that they expire, and a lot of it's more in timing. As far as the evaluation, we continue that process. I hope that you guys received the briefing that we put together on the rent versus buy, and that's the methodology that we use when we evaluate. Do we want to purchase this, or does it make better sense to rent it because it's going to be for a temporary basis?
Right, although this one, so you're saying if you're back every 3 years on something similar to this with this same spec, right, with these large vehicles, I just was curious about, again, about the power of purchasing and keeping them, because you all do seem to keep vehicles for an extended period of time and get the most out of them as opposed to coming back for re-upping a lease every 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, we try to get as much life as we can, but one of the things that happens here is projects come and go, particularly construction projects. A need will pop up, maybe a short-term need. You know, power system, water system in particular is doing a lot of construction projects that, and like in water trucks in here, they're going to need in the next couple of years. There's a couple projects that you guys will see come across, and they'll use those water trucks for 6 to 8 months, and then we give them back to Hertz or whoever the bidder is. It doesn't make sense. They're very expensive, so we just pay for what we use.
Commissioner Fleming, I might add that as a general principle, it makes sense for us to buy equipment if we are going to use it in the long term, because we typically have a lower cost of capital than these private enterprises. So in general, buying makes sense, but for the sporadic use of this type, renting also makes sense.
Yeah, these are intended to supplement what we have. I mean, we have almost 7,000 vehicles in our fleet, and so we do try to buy whatever really makes sense.
Right, and those have come before. I mean, it's just to your point earlier that, you know, we're as a fairly new commission, we're seeing this kind of repeatedly, these kind of $5 million rental deals coming up over and over again. But I
hope to not be back for a little while.
As much as we enjoy seeing you, I hope so too.
Well, thank you.
Thanks very much.
Anyone else? Is there a motion to approve this?
I'll move.
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Somebody want to get President Levine? The chair is yours, Mr. President.
Very expeditious, Mr. Vice President. We move to item number 14.
And I do have 3 speaker cards for item 14.
Okay, we'll begin with the speaker's cards.
Okay, the first speaker is Natalie Newton.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you to the board for hearing us today. My name is Natalie Newton. I'm speaking on behalf of the union that represents the food service workers in the DWP cafeteria, convenience store, and catering. Today, we are asking the board to vote yes on item 14, which continues the quality food service that the DWP provides by our members who work for Sodexo Company, some of whom who have proudly served the DWP for 30 years. The food service workers here will be able to keep their jobs at their current level of pay and benefits if you vote yes on this item. We thank you, the board, again for voting yes on item 14.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Ramon Mendez.
Good morning. My name is Ramon Mendoza. Thank you, Commissioner, for your service to DWP. My name is Ramon Mendoza. I am grill cook in cafeteria at DWP. I have worked for 15 years. I am here for ask you to please vote on item 14 so that I can keep my job and continue serving DWP and the public with my job. I support my family and 2 children. I work 40 hours a week, providing the best service I can. I ask the board again to vote yes on item 14. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Miguel Fernandez.
Apparently, that speaker is not here.
Miguel Fernandez? Okay. That's the last card I have for 14.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Fleming?
So, I wonder if someone wants to kind of give us a bit of a background on this. It's a tangled presentation, to say the least.
Good morning, Commissioners. Before you on item 14 is Amendment 4 to contract with Sodexo for food service in the John Ferraro building. It also covers emergency food service in the event of disaster or emergency. Amendment 4 is for 15 months, $561,000. There's a little background. The cafeteria here was closed from August 2010 to May 2012. And as with any other retail establishment, if you are not available to the public, it's closed to the public. If you're not available to the public will find other options. And public revenue from the public and outside catering was important because in the previous years, it was that mixture of outside revenue and department employees that kept the food service here self-sufficient. You have the history in front of you in terms of what happened after the closing of the cafeteria to the public. Went back out to bid. There were only 2 proposals. And I think we're at a point where we have to look at a different business model. 3 years simply is not enough to get the capital investment here to make it attractive to both employees and the public. It's very difficult from a business development standpoint in terms of getting outside catering companies, because you're only promising them at best probably 2.5 years once you make that receive that commitment. Currently, we're at 1,500 customers daily. This is up from about 1,000 during the time we were closed to the public. The bottom line, I think, for the department is that there's a cost savings attached to having food service in this building, much as with most major corporations who have a large number of employees at a single site. The nearest options are about a 10-minute round-trip walk. Those options include a franchise fast service, fast food sandwich place, and a small restaurant. They're not able to accommodate 1,000 employees from DWP within a 90-minute period of time. We save money whether employees eat there or employees bring their food back and eat at their desk, because that's time eliminated from traveling to purchase the food. Any questions?
Walk me through a little when you say a different business model. So, I mean, we've heard from the folks from T-Mobile this morning. Most every contract we see reference in here talks about the difficulty in putting things out for bid and in contracts, right? How cumbersome the process is, how challenging it is. So I agree that we need a different business model here. My concern would be that we don't seem to be very successful at encouraging folks who bring different business models to the DWP, right? And so what's your thinking around, what's the process around bringing something new, something innovative that'll actually get us back to not having to spend our resources on propping up a kind of a losing enterprise?
Well, I think first of all, it's historically we've gone in 3-year contracts, and it goes back to either we're making the investment as the department in terms of capital improvements and business development, or the vendor is. To go to a longer contract period, say up to 10 years, that provides the necessary time frame for any company to a contractor to recoup its investment. Obviously, we're not experts in this, so it's much better that a private company with a long-term or relatively long-term time frame has the opportunity to develop the business.
So what would, walk me through then what the process would be if this were approved today, right, and this holds kind of the status quo for a little while. Walk me through what the process would be, what the timeline would be, so that we could find a potential vendor, someone maybe a little more innovative that we're seeking to find, that who would be willing to invest.
We're looking at bringing in some outside expertise on a very short-term basis to advise us on what are the various ways to develop a food concession as we have here. We're also going to have some discussions with folks at the airport, and that's how we're going to develop a RFP that gets us some of those fresh ideas.
Okay. Just as a quick point of clarification, our physical structure of our cafeteria hasn't changed in decades. We have, probably because we are an electric utility, when this building was built in the 60s, we have electric grills down there, for example. We don't have gas-fired grills. That's significantly limits literally what you can prepare as a cook. We've had that comment by outside parties. Those who have spent time in our dining facility, it's done within our contract limits and what we provide. We're going to bring back in the public to utilize our facility here as we did in the past. They kind of demand a different type of offerings than we have historically done, and that's not a criticism of Sodexo. It's under the terms of the agreement that we have as to what we can offer. The facility itself is not particularly conducive to bringing people in outside. It's an institutional style facility. We're going to look at the options of whether we can have a business model that provides for that third party to come in, make capital investments in the facility. We'll use this outside consultant in the near term to help us structure that, again, to help us learn from how the LAX and LA World Airports does things. They periodically go through and make pretty significant changes to their concessionaires and work out arrangements on there that we just frankly haven't done. And we want to learn from them, we want to learn from outside assistance, and we want to get to a situation where we have a more healthy offering out there, a more up-to-date offering, and frankly also be able to look at the prospects of whether we might be able to utilize less space than we have down there today, because we're a bit space constrained in this building, and to the extent that we could recoup some of that space for other business purposes, that's a benefit as well. All of those things take some time, so we felt that the best thing to do was continue this contract as it is right now while we go through, get that outside assistance, have adequate time to go out there and bid for this under a more proper business model, reflecting some of these things.
So just one final question. So this extension is for 15 months.
Correct.
So the goal would be that 15 months from now, this entire process would have been complete and we'd be ready to move on to something
That's
new.
correct.
Right,
That's
so
correct.
this is the last kind of renewal of this.
That's correct. That's our plan, yes.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
I find it frustrating because that's what I heard the last time. And I remember when this was presented to us several months ago, and I had several objections about us subsidizing lunches for employees here. I think, there's a lot of press about how well paid our employees are, and I really don't think that the ratepayers should be paying for lavish catering events and to upgrade the dining hall. And I just am very disappointed that the last time we spoke about this issue, that it was my understanding that the RFP you're talking about putting out now should have been done then. I believe at the time I spoke about not only connecting with the airport, but also the convention center, who has a very similar situation where, there were years where their events went down, yet they maintained a very healthy, thriving food service area. And there, at least, a lot of the food costs, the events are paying for them. But here, I just have a very difficult time quantifying the ratepayers paying to subsidize having this service provider who's been with us for many, many years, and who keeps asking for more and more things, one amendment after the other. And I just feel 15 months is way too long.
In this particular case, the subsidy has been reduced because business has picked up. Obviously not to the point where the subsidy would go away. And that's, at the end of the day, that's the objective.
Well, I really would like a presentation on what the airport's doing, what the convention center is doing, because on principle, I really have a difficult time subsidizing a food service provider I've highlighted so many things. $42,000 a month for emergency food service requirements. What exactly does that buy us? And agreeing that the department is going to spend a minimum monthly purchase of $33,000 on catering events. Which events are these? Because I know when we meet as a board, we're given very modest lunches, so I'm wondering where the $33,000 is going to.
That's just the commitment to purchase. We have guidelines within the department, or policy within the department, regarding catering. And those guidelines are very strict in terms of the, for a particular event, the time of duration, the attendees. So those restrictions are still in place, and that guarantee is also backed off by a 20% reduction.
It's not answering the question. If we're agreeing to give them a minimum of $33,000 a month on catering, are we using it, or are we just giving them the money? Are we calling it just a loss on our end?
Let me respond to that. We are, the terms of the agreement are such that by virtue of the continually falling number of people that have been coming through, we're working to get them back up. But when we made the change here, or before I got here, a change was made at the prior board to significantly ramp up the security here. I know that we've discussed that with prior board. We haven't discussed that, I don't think, with this current board. And through that process, we completely closed the cafeteria to outside. We lost a huge percentage of the business in there, and through that process, there wasn't revenue enough to the business deal changed during the middle of a contract, basically. So without agreeing to pay a minimum level that was commensurate to what the revenue was, at least the net revenue was, that came in when we weren't precluding the public, we couldn't continue on with the contract. So we have continued on to make that payment. Our approach that we use is, by no means, you're right, it's no means lavish catering that we have around here. But to the extent that we do catering, we make certain that we use that service out of there to make as much use of that minimum payment as we possibly can. In those months where we don't do that much, I mean, we do have a number of activities that we do here, both for external accounts and business activities, as well as our own internal meetings and the like. To the extent that we don't use that, then we are just paying a minimum portion of that subsidy in each month. this just isn't a long-term sustainable model in that approach. I think it would have been preferable to have put in retrospect, last time we brought this forward for your extension, to have extended it for a longer period of time and undertaken the approach that we're proposing to do right now. We didn't, and we should have, and we're doing that now so that we stop this cycle of having to subsidize something and get people back in here off the street to use a facility. And the only way we're going to, we have pretty good empirical evidence that continuing to serve the product that we have and the facility that we have is not going to attract more people off the street. When you take a look at, we looked at other options, and well, what if we just close down the cafeteria and just quit it altogether? When you take a look at an average number of people, 1,000 or so people a day from the department using this facility, knowing that there just isn't anything even close to being able to service that volume of people going out on the street in relatively either break times or be their lunch hours, that we're going to end up having people to go further and further away. This isn't just a matter of inconvenience to our staff. That's not the issue. The issue is they're simply going to be longer and further away from their desks. If they're longer and further away from their desks, they're not getting work done. And it doesn't take very long at all before the value of that time not being spent versus what we're paying for the subsidy overshadows it very, very quickly.
And I don't want to belabor the issue, but as a business person, I would think that an entity that's not paying rent on a facility that has an audience of 1,500 people paying to have lunch doesn't require all of these additional concessions. And it states here when the May 13 RFP went out that there was significant interest, but only 2 proposals were received. You know, I'd like to ask why. I'd like to have backup, because I believe that with those kind of concessions that are being offered, that there would be a lot of people in that kind of food industry that would feel very happy to entertain the prospect of feeding approximately 1,500 people a day.
Well, and the very type of feedback that we got back was the type that we're proposing to do. They're saying it's too short term, your facilities are antiquated, you have electric grills and not gas grills, your seating area is old age institution. We can't attract people in there. You've got a facility and a location that should work, but investment needs to be made in that. Either you have to invest in it, or you need to give us enough time and freedom to invest in it. That's the primary type of feedback. I don't know, Gary,
but
beyond that.
You just stated that they have a hostage audience of approximately 1,500 people. So since there aren't a lot of options, I wouldn't think that it would have to be that spruced up.
Well, I forget what the exact numbers of external versus internal that came through in the past relatively scary. I don't know if you have that information handy.
From what I recall, prior to August 2010, we were probably in the neighborhood of 3,000 customers a day on average.
So we went to a third of that. We did some work to reopen it back up to jurors and others where we could bring people in on that and got it back up to about half of where it was. It's just we need to get it back up to higher levels, and we're being told by outside vendors that they can't do it with the product that we have to offer. And frankly, rather than listening to a bunch of vendors tell us what we should or shouldn't be doing, I think they kind of spoke with their feet in terms of not having any very solid bids coming in on this. We believe we have never gone out to get an outside advisor who actually knows this business to come in and suggest how do we get ourselves in line with things like such as Loblaw and others. Now they have a different product as well in terms of what they're dealing with, but looking at what those options are, and it's not in our suite of skill sets to know that. I would agree it would have been good to have done this last time around, but like I said, we didn't do that. We believe from what we have learned, and we got a lot more feedback this time around from vendors.
Well, I think it'd be helpful to have that feedback as part of our package too. And many times, on an item it states that 20 people expressed interest and then only 2 proposals came in. But at least you cite who those entities are and the reasons why they've decided not to participate. because for me personally, I just find it very, very difficult to believe that with all of these concessions that are being offered with a hostage audience of at least 1,500 people, that we still are being forced to consider continuing subsidizing having a food group here. So that'd be helpful in the future, I think.
One more question. Is there a reason why this is, why it's a 15-month extension? Is there a magic number as to why it has to be 15 months?
It's what we believe to get the expert in here, come up with a proposal to send out and then give back to the board in time.
So I guess, Mr. President, I would just make a friendly amendment that I'd be okay with the 15 months, but that whatever the next meeting is that's closest to 90 days from now, to Commissioner Noonan's point, it'd be great to have 90 days from now, there should be enough data, there should be enough folks who've expressed interest, there should be a larger conversation that we could have as a board about this. So if we went ahead and approved this, but 90 days from now, I'd like to come back and revisit this so that we're not revisiting it 15 months from now and having the same concerns that Commissioner Noonan has expressed.
Well, here's what we could talk with LAWA in that period of time and talk with them and get some feedback from them. But in terms of us going out and bringing in an outside consultant, that's a much longer process than that.
Right, but at least 90 days, it'd be great to see what the progress that's been made 90 days in. Because if we're 90 days in, that's 90 days into a 15-month, right? Okay. I don't want to get way down the road again, back to Commissioner Noonan's point, and then have us at 12 months having to re-up a contract where we keep losing.
Sure, we can have a check back in at that point, tell you where we are, where we're going, how things are coming along. We'd be happy to do that.
That'd be great.
Great.
So the approval motion would be amended to require a status report at the end of 90 days.
I vote.
I want to have a question.
Go ahead.
Before we vote. I just need some background based on what Commissioner Noonan said. Are the lunches subsidized for staff?
No.
My point is that we have commitments monthly to this entity, and it's so that they'll serve food to our staff, which pays out of they're paying for their lunch. Okay. But what they're stating is that if we didn't offer all of these concessions, which is costing us a lot of money, in comparison to other things that we're reviewing today, not too much, but on principle, a lot of money. They're stating that it would be very difficult to have a food service group here. And I really would like some more background on that because I find that very difficult to believe.
The subsidy is the minimum monthly guarantee.
Okay, I misunderstood. I thought you were saying that we were subsidizing their lunches.
I think their point is that if we don't offer these concessions and we don't allow them to occupy the space rent-free, that the employees here would be forced to go elsewhere to have lunch. Mm-hmm. So we're affording them the opportunity to have lunch here using this vendor.
Well, I think based on how many people work in this building and where it's located, I don't think it's an option to close the cafeteria. I think what you're saying is that you not only want people to eat here who work here, but you want to bring in other people. And certainly there are enough buildings around here. I mean, people could walk up from City Hall or people visiting the music center if they knew they could walk across the street, because there's not a lot of places right around the music center. I mean, you've got a, worldwide tourist attraction across the street. I think what you're saying, you want a new look. And
we want a new look. We want new offerings of,
yes.
of more, fresher food offerings.
Yes.
I mean, what we offer. We offer a 1970s menu. I mean, to be honest.
Well, there are
it's not
many,
a 1970s world.
There are many restaurant consultants that would love to come in and say, okay, here's what you ought to do.
And that's
I mean, just watch Food Network and you'll see them all. Now, one question I have. So if it's $42,000 a month, emergency food service and catering. If a month, I just want to review what you said. You said if in a month, let's say, there's no catering, where did that $42,000 go?
If there were no catering whatsoever, which is never happens, and there's always some level of catering given the activities that are going on in this building, and we also use them for off-site catering events as well. But the net, we pay the net shortfall. Let's say there was $20,000 worth of catering done, and we would be paying them a check for $23,000 for the difference
Well,
between
could that
minimum.
then, that part of this amendment be changed so that you only pay that part that is actually used? Why are we paying also the difference?
The way this was structured is looking at what is the general run of what catering, because catering goes up and goes down seasonally with activities, was some calculations that Mr. Wong worked out with Sodexo that evaluated what was the net that they would have to get from that in terms of either dollars or catering work done, based on what was generally the range of catering that's happened around here. So what we're doing is just simply saying we're providing a net amount of funding, either in the form of catering delivered, where they get the net out of that, or dollars that are provided to make up the shortfall on that. That makes up for not having the 3,000 people per month that were previously coming through our doors, that we stopped coming through our doors when we closed it off to the public.
Well, I think that as a businesswoman who's been in PR for the last 30 years, there's a lot of public relations and advertising you could do once you get into this century, and
I would agree.
And I think then you'll get it back up, to $3,000.
We're anticipating that as well, and this issue is a stopgap to get us through and get us back to where we should be, offering a modern product that we should, getting people back in the door, getting advertising out
Yes.
there, but we'd like to have that being put on the party that provides those services, so it's on them to get it done. We want an advisor to come in and make sure that we're right-headed about how we go out for this RFP when we do this.
Okay.
Other comments, questions, suggestions? Is there a motion to the amended approval with the 90-day report back?
I'll move it.
Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I appreciate the amendment, but I still oppose.
It passes 4-1. Okay, we now go to the items beyond the consent calendar. The next three, I believe, are essentially a unit. Mr. Nichols, how would you recommend that we proceed on these?
Well, first, while we have our staff come up, I think we can take them as a group because they are of a similar nature. But I'd like to just give some background on it. You'll recall at our prior meeting we had Mr. Buckley gave an overview, and Aaron Benjamin as well gave an overview of our power system reliability program and kind of the condition of the different aspects of our system, types of things that we're encountering, what we've been doing, what our historic budgets have been, and the like, and gave you an indication we were going to be coming forward with some contracts on this. Our existing field crews are already working significant overtime. If we could do this with our existing crews, or even with ramping up some overtime above and beyond we would do that. And we just simply have more to get done than we can do with our existing crews. We are hiring more people. We've talked many times about the attrition that we have to retirement. That includes our field crews. We're going through our apprentice programs. We're bringing more people in, but that apprentice program is a 4-year program, so we're getting more people on board and trained to do that. But the condition of our system, as we explained in our previous explanations, is going, just requires us to augment those skill sets. So in the meantime, we're behind where we want to be. We bid out those contracts, and staff will explain the process that we went out for bidding on this. But what I want to point out is the fact that the work that we are doing and the work that we're doing with outside contractors, this is going to go on for a decade or more. Beyond that, this is just a long-term catch-up to replace a very large aged infrastructure. And we've had a succession of studies that we've done to go out over the last when was the first one that EPRI did?
2006.
Yeah.
Was the first one.
Starting back in 2006, we had the Electric Power Research Institute. It's an industry nonprofit organization. Come in and do some just general evaluations of our system and our aging and the like, and it was a start. When I came on board, I think we needed to get a little deeper dive, and we did, and brought EPRI back in. Aaron brought them in, and they gave us additional insight on what we should do. Still not quite at the level that I think we needed. We went out and contracted with 2 companies working together, private consultants and engineering, again, these are engineers area, to come in and give us more focus on the whole issue of capital prioritization. Where do you put your money first? What are the things that we need to do to get us more in line with where we should be? And they did a fair amount of work over that. I think it was a good year's worth of effort on that. And they've identified that as a draft report, not a final one yet, draft report that has given us a fair amount of insight into where we believe we should prioritize things and where within poles and cables and cross arms and transformers and things that we should be done. And I think the work that we're going to be talking about, I know the work that we're going to be talking about here today is work that we need to move forward with an outside contractor to get it done, and it's all, in my view, will be no regrets work, and Daryl will talk about how we'll manage that work. But the reason I'm bringing this kind of long introduction up is I believe we need to drill in even more deeply as we go through. We're spending hundreds of millions of dollars a year, and we will be, and we have to, and we recognize that. We want to make certain as we get deeper and deeper into that spend and get more and more of this done, that we're spending it in the right priorities that gives us the best bang for the buck for our most improvement and reliability. There's no question we need to move forward on these things. There's no question but what getting this work going on now is important to continue on a timely basis. But we will be going out for more work. We'll be hiring more people to get this done in the years to come. And you will see us coming back to you with a recommendation that we go out for even more outside assistance to get a combination of not just the engineering assistance that we had, but also some business consulting combined with them together to give us some advice with a little bit more benchmarking, a little bit more metrics, and a little bit more cost-benefit analysis with respect to each one of these segments of the type of work that is being recommended here today, so that we know that as we go in the years to come, beyond the period of these contracts, in the years to come, that we are absolutely going after the most important things first, because there's a lot of money to spend on that. I think we're headed down the right path. I think we've done the right things. When you're spending this kind of money, it's kind of look at it as though an investment account. You're an investment advisor. If you spend money to an investment advisor to tell you how to do it, we need to spend money with an investment advisor to work with us to help us how to refine this even further when we go beyond these contracts here. So I just wanted to kind of put that in context before we explain what we're doing with these 3 particular contracts.
I would just comment that that's reassuring and very helpful, because we're talking about so much money, and obviously these urgent things need to be done, but it's very difficult, speaking for myself at least, in reading through this material to assess priorities, cost-benefit analysis, and the like, and having that type of thoughtful and hopefully thorough benchmarking analysis would, I think, be very helpful to the board.
With that, let me turn it over to the staff with regard to these 3 specific. I'm just trying to set a longer-term context for this work.
Okay. I'm Gwendolyn Williams, Director of Supply Chain Services. To my left is Daryl Buckley from Power, and Bassam Abu Shakra from Power. We're going to be giving you kind of a general overview of what we went through on these particular contracts in terms of the entire procurement process. Commissioner Noonan had asked me about 2 months ago to do a presentation, a general presentation on the procurement process, but because we've had such full agendas, we haven't done it yet, but I'm planning to make that presentation in more detail about the procurement process in February at our first meeting. basically we've broken the procurement process for these 3 items into 3 phases that we approached. The first is the planning phase, and Bassam's going to talk about that. The initiating phase is where actually procurement becomes very actively involved. I'll be talking about that. And the implementation phase, which is where the contract administration takes place, and Daryl Buckley will be speaking about that. So we'll start off with Bassam.
Good morning, Commissioner. What I'm going to talk about is this is the spec for one of the spec for these 3 contracts. So we have 3 specs that went out to bid. How does the contract administrator, process these specs? What are we trying to achieve? What are the goals set to make sure that we get what we need to do? Now, the goals are set in the IPRP, which is the Integrated Resource Power Plan, and it's several hundred pages, so I'm just going to make one sentence. And IPRP really identifies the power system assets to support LADP goals in making sure that we provide reliable, safe, and affordable power. So the IPRP already identified to replace about 5,000 poles, and that is to be able to achieve a replacement cycle. We know what the life expectancy is of a pole. We know what the life expectancy is of a cable. So IPRP identified 5,000 poles to achieve a 60-year life cycle for pole, and it identified 60 miles of cable replacement each year to be able to reach a 75-mile replacement cycle. Any piece of equipment has a life cycle. I mean, it's not going to last forever. And we have a lot of experience, the power system, utility, and also we learn from others. So I'm going to try to go over step by step on what's on your left. Now, these contracts are structured as 3-year contracts, 1 year with 2 optional years. And, we've done these contracts in the past. We started in about 2005, 2006. And we apply lessons learned. What did we learn from the past contracts that we can do better currently on these contracts? As an example, the first contract only had about 40 items. But because we added night shift, we added different type of equipment, permitting fees, this contract has 73 items. Also, we've learned about, the estimate. How do we develop the estimate? So these contracts are 1 year with 2 optional renewal periods, and mainly because of the budget. In your first page on the board letters, it says that we had issues with funding on the last 3 contracts, and we had to suspend them, and then they were terminated. And the fact that we changed from straight 3-year contract to 1 year with 2 optional, if we have issues with the funding, we do not exercise the option. That is the right of LADP. The contract administrator, of course, with the support of executive management, will not renew the options. So that's something that we've learned and we apply to these contracts. Now, in terms of the number of crews and the qualification of the crews, all the crews are coming from Local 47, and they're tied to union wages, and that helps us do a better job when we do our estimate. They're all qualified electrical workers. Each of these contracts, we can bring up to 15 fully equipped crews and 2 material handling crews. Each of these crews have a 4-person crew. Daryl can explain more about the different classification of the crews. Now, we do pay prevailing wage. This type of contract requires, the living wage, supporting the living wage ordinance form and prevailing wage. And we do have a very unique article in Division B1 that they have to comply with all federal and state and local laws. So we know that we're not going to have issues with that. We have processed these contracts since 2006, and if you look at the dollar amount and the estimate, the first one is about 47 million, and that's for the cable replacement. It came 3% below our estimate. The next 2 are the pole replacement. We estimated about 87 million. The quoted prices for the lowest bidder came about 5 to 6%. And we know how much we paid or what were the bids in 2009. We know there's incremental increases. As an example, we're going to be paying 2.3% extra every year because it's tied to the cost of living adjustment. So we factor that in. Sometimes it's difficult when you're doing a contract for the first time. As an example, you approved the board package, I believe in November, that was $47 million for the construction of conduit. We have not done that type of work in over 30 years, so it was very difficult to estimate. But the fact that we've done this work in 2006 and in 2009, it was easier to develop the estimate. And the last thing I want to talk is about how do we, use this spec. The supply chain services have a website, and there's about 21 spec templates, different spec templates. If we do a 3-digit, what we call a price and time, and if it's a 1+1+1, there's only a guarantee to the contractor of 25% minimum. That's the only thing we guarantee. The optional years have 0 guarantee. So there's 3-digit contracts, there's 4-digit, but there's 21 spec template with over 500 master clauses. So the spec has the terms and condition, they have the technical requirements, has the items that the vendors have to bid, and also once we complete the spec, then we turn it over to supply chain, and Win is going to expand on that through what we call the e-procurement. And then we prioritize our specification and power system. We have what we call a radar screen, and it's updated every month that lists all our contracts for the next 18 months. What is going to be processed and how we're going to turn it over to supply chain to make sure that it moves forward. So that's mainly my presentation.
Okay, and I'll talk a little bit about the initiating phase, and that's when we're actively involved. And following up in terms of what Bassam said about the 18-month look ahead, which we call our radar screen, we also take that information and we publish. Supply Chain publishes a newsletter that we send out every quarter to everyone who's registered in our ERSP system, some 12,000 people. And we give them that 18-month look ahead so that they can see what contracts are coming up. Mr. Nichols and I discussed that the other day, that we're going to also start providing the board with that newsletter. It's called Supply Line, so that you get a look in terms of seeing what's coming down for the next 18 months. So we update it every quarter. The next one will be going out in the first week in January. So we take the information from our customers and develop that look ahead. Once they've completed the specification, our electronic request, solicit, and procure, that's ERSP that you hear us talking about, system comes into play. They send it to us electronically. We assign it to a buyer. It's also assigned to our supplier relations department. They take a look at the specification, and they work with Bassam and his group to develop small business and disabled veterans goals for the project. On this particular solicitation, because it was so large, when we looked at the fact that we had these 3 large contracts coming down the pipe, we wanted to make sure that we advertise it, in our ERSP system and also in the city's BAVN system. But because it was so large and we wanted to make sure that we informed as many people as we could, we had an outreach event down in the cafeteria area where we invited, I think probably there were about 200 or 300 people that came to talk to the staff about this solicitation. So this was in advance of the solicitation even going out to be advertised, that we had subs come in and primes come in so they could meet each other and talk about the possibility of doing business together. And this was to maximize the response that we would have on this solicitation. Then we did a formal advertisement, and again, that's done electronically through our BAVN and ERSP. BAVN is the Business Assistant Virtual Network, which is hosted by the city. After the advertisement went out, we have a pre-bid meeting, and that meeting, we ask for all subcontractors and vendors to come in. We go over the requirements of the solicitation. We answer some questions that they have. We have a presentation on the use of ERSP. We have somebody talk about the small business program, the disabled veterans program, and sometimes, if it's appropriate, we have a job walk so that they can see where the work to be done actually has happened. After the pre-bid meeting, we field questions from the vendors. The questions must be submitted in writing in a specific format. Staff answers those questions, and then we respond to them prior to the bid coming in. The bid is then due in ERSP on a specific date at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Those bids are all submitted electronically at 2 p.m. and 1 second. The bids are opened electronically, and all the vendors can see the prices. They won't necessarily know at that time who the lowest bidder is, because in some instances, I don't think in this case, but in some instances, we have to evaluate some technical requirements before we can determine if they're the lowest bidder or not. We simultaneously then start, SES and Systems starts going through the bid documents to make sure that they're in full compliance. And that's when sometimes you see in our board reports where they're non-responsive because they haven't uploaded a particular document, they didn't meet the SBE goal, they didn't submit good faith efforts, they may not have filled out the city responsibility forms as appropriate. So we go through and determine, even though someone was lowest, they may not be responsive because they didn't comply with all of the terms of the solicitation. Then we start.
They get an opportunity to correct that or not?
Responsiveness?
Yeah.
Not in most cases. It depends on what it is. If it's a minor clerical error, then we talk to the city attorney and determine whether or not that could be waived, if it's a minor irregularity. But if it's something like with the city requires that they submit their ethics form, the equal benefits ordinance, if they don't do those, we can't waive it. So they're non-responsive. We have bid responsiveness workshops that we have every other Friday. Last year we did them every other Friday from July until December. This year we're going to do them once a month on Fridays, where we reach out to the potential vendors, especially if we know that we've got a big solicitation coming up. And we ask them to come in because it's a complicated system electronically for them to utilize, but a decision was made many years ago to go with an electronic online bidding system. So we work with them so that they familiarize themselves with the system as much as they can prior to their submitting their bid, so that we don't have a lot of non-responsive bid because it costs us money. Then we start working on, we get a recommendation for award after everybody's reviewed everything and determined who the lowest bidder was, or with an RFP, the most responsive and responsible proposer. And we start working on the board letter that then comes to you. Then, if it's your will, you approve that item and it goes over for City Council to decide if they want to pull it for discussion. If not, it comes back and we sign the contract. Mr. Nichols signs the contract. The contract goes out, and then Gerald Buckley assumes responsibility for the contract.
Good morning. So I'm going to go through the process. Once the contract has been approved, it's gone through the Prop 5 process. It's sat through the City Council for the meetings, and then it's signed by the general manager and the vendor. So what happens next? How do we evaluate the contractors and whatnot? The bottom line is what we do is we have a pre-construction meeting. That's how we start. In that pre-construction meeting, we go through a number of items, which are all of the DWP expectations, which includes, how we interact with with our public, the community, some of the important aspects of our work, which is safety. We go through processes and procedures, operating order requirements, design specification requirements. We go through the types of documents and paperwork that they work with. In our case, we're going to work with, we have our Work Management Information System, our WMIS program, that we do our design specifications through. We take that, we detail out how those specs are drawn up, what they mean, what are you looking for when you're looking at these specs, So it's all of your basic, construction requirements that are that we put on the guys. Those contractors, in this case, these contracts are going to represent about 200 employees out in the field, additional employees out in the field to do work. We manage this through 10 locations. We have 10, and we're actually looking at trying to get a couple more locations. We call them staging areas, which is where all of our contract crews are staged. And that's broken up throughout all the city, in all aspects or areas of our city, so that we can dispatch work more effectively and efficiently with our contract crews. We have a contract administrator. He's my superintendent of contract operations who manages all of our contracts. What he does is he is looking at the small business enterprise or minority business enterprise requirements, making sure that they're meeting those requirements. He monitors that. Contractors have to submit their monthly reports determining how that's going, and we interact obviously with the supply chain management folks and purchasing to evaluate to make sure that they're spending the money on their subs as required. But the work itself is given to they have general foremen. So each of the contracts will have one or more general foremen that work with their management team over in the contracts. And I have inspectors that we call inspectors. They're actually supervisory level that go out on a daily basis. They monitor the work. They go to every single job site every day and validate the type of equipment that's out there. They validate the type of people that are out there, and to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're also looking at various other factors with concerns to safety, to make sure the job's being done safely, to make sure that there's good interaction with the public. All of our contract crews are given a document that has a department representative's phone number on it, that if a customer has a complaint or an issue, they don't have to talk to the contractor. They can actually talk to the DWP representative. We give them that phone number. It's a direct contact that will be answered when they call. We'll have our inspector would then go right back out to that job site, and they can help assist. We talk about just all aspects of it in this meeting, but all of our contractors are given, the general foreman in general have 5 crews that they manage, and we give the general foreman our work packages, our construction work packages. Those construction work packages are benchmarked. We have them all benchmarked. We know how long it takes to do those projects, and we compare the amount of time it takes to do it compared to what the design says it should have taken. We do comparisons to review that on a periodic basis. But our crews, in general, what's happening is they're actually monitored every day by our inspector, and he goes out there and validates again that we're getting what we're paying for.
Can I ask a question? And
sure.
Forgive me. I know that our employees have certain time constraints as to the hours that they can perform services. Since we're contracting the work out, do they have to abide by those same time constraints, or do we have more flexibility with the hours that they do work on the project?
The contractor has to abide with the same ordinance restrictions that we have, because it's a permit issue to work on a public street. Mm-hmm. So they have to abide with the same laws and regulations that our crews abide by. And one thing I just want to kind of tie what Bassam's comment was, what Darrell was explaining on the mobilization, the logistics of moving this much workforce to the city. It's a huge effort for these laydown areas or large pieces of land that are secured, for their security reasons, because they have a lot of logistics that support those crews, from fueling to maintenance to supply chain, that they would set up and they would control. Mm-hmm. So we don't have our crews and contract crews commingle in the same yard. So we have to separate those for responsibility reasons. And you've seen a lot of those large contracts individually, like the cable contracts and transformers. Logistically, the material that we take delivery of through the rail system and the storage systems that we have, and staging it in a way throughout the city so we can issue what Daryl was talking about, the engineered packages, is basically prioritizing the work, issuing the material for them, giving them the orders in the priority, and also monitoring it. That whole network of these distribution systems that we have in place, that's going to put a lot of strain on our crews also, because although they're not doing the actual work themselves, but just preparing the staging the yards and issuing the material and monitoring the contracts, making sure the public doesn't see the contractor as the face of the DWP. It's still our standards, it's our way of doing the system upgrades that's going to be monitored out there, and the standards will be kept.
Let me just ask you, just to play devil's advocate. I'm assuming that you feel comfortable hiring Henkels and McCoy. So, I mean, wouldn't it be almost more cost effective, instead of having so much supervision managing these 200 people that'll be assisting us, to give them some kind of incentive that if they finish the work by a certain end date, that they'll receive a bonus? Did we consider that instead of?
Yeah, definitely have considered that. When you do contract work, there's different ways of doing it. You could do it, by piece, and you can just get a bid on the piece. You could put those kind of constraints, or you can do it the way we do it, which is where you monitor the work that they're doing, and you pay for you labor and equipment. That's all we pay for is labor and equipment, and then we monitor and manage it. Monitor it and manage it. Safety is our number one priority in the department. The department spent a lot of years making sure that we protect the health and safety of not only our employees but the public in general. What happens when you do that type of construction where you push people to do a job faster? They work unsafe, and that's a risk for the department as a whole, and it's not a good way of doing business. So the incentive, and actually even talking with all of our contractors, this is probably the most restricted contract way of doing business. They don't like doing it this way because we're out there monitoring everything they're doing. On the administrative side of it, it's not as high end as you think. I only have 10 inspectors monitoring all of those crews, 36 line crews, and probably another couple dozen on the splicing side. I only have 10 inspectors, only 10 full-time equivalent employees doing that, and that's not really a lot of overhead managing that. But safety-wise, we're not taking any kind of additional risks by having somebody go out there and cut corners trying to get a job done quicker so that they can make the additional money.
I would hope, though, that we did some research on, or some due diligence on, Henkels and McCoy's safety record.
Yeah, part of our specification is that and I was involved with setting these contracts up back in actually 2001 when we first started contracting out, and safety was our number one concern at the time. We had gone through great strides improving our safety program here at DWP, and the last thing I wanted to do is bring in contractors and destroy our image when it comes to safety. So what we did is we looked at, they don't have a safety work loss workday incident rate like we do. They work off of safety modifier rates, which is how they get their workers' comp insurance and whatnot. So what we did is we said that we wanted to they had to be at least at an industry standard or less. So we put in our specifications a safety modifier rate of 1.0 or less. And in fact, we had a number of companies that were interested in this contract that were not able to put in bids, because when they read through the fine detail and realized that there was a safety modifier rate of 1 point, they weren't able to meet that, and that's why we had some people who had a lot of interest, but they couldn't put in for these because they couldn't meet that requirement. And again, so safety is the utmost important for us, and that's why we've added that into our contracts. And we do monitor it. And Henkels & McCoy is a good contractor. I'll be honest with you, they've done business with us before. They had these exact same contracts with us before in the past, and they perform fine. They're as good as any other contractor that we've had on our property. So since 2001, we really only had 2 contractors that have been successful for this type of work. It was Henkels & McCoy and Asplin Utility was the other one that had most of it, but these two companies both have done work for us before, and they both, for work-wise, did if I would say, an exceptional job. They've done really well. And we build good relationships with these guys. I mean, my contract administrator, he theoretically meets with their management side on a weekly basis, if not, every twice a week or whatever, because you've got to understand, they got to work together and understand each other's requirements. But the guys that are doing this kind of work, I don't care who we contract with, it'll be the same employees, because they all come out of Local 47, and all of them, it's whoever gets the contractor, then they go to Local 47 and they pull the guys right off the book. So if it was Asplin or Hinkles and McCoy or Par Electric or any of the other companies out there, they all would get theoretically the same employees doing the work. So it's really the oversight by their management team that really determines how effective they are. And working with Hinkles and McCoy and working with some of the others we've had here in the past, we've had a good relationship, and they have a good business model, which makes the quality, the safety, and the performance utmost important in their organizations, and that's why this really makes sense. So these contracts, I just one of the things I want to say is that and Ron touched on it. This is a I went through last week and talked about all the numbers that we need to get to, the 5,000 poles and the 18,000 cross arms, and I've got all the fix-it tickets of 45,000 backlog. But these contracts is part of a ramp up to get us to that level. This is not gonna get us alone, get us where we need to be. But I'm gonna, just for example, on the poles, we need to be replacing 5,000 poles a year just to maintain a good, safe, reliable power system in the Department of Water and Power for our customers. With these contracts, these are going to get us somewhere between 2,000 and 2,500 additional poles replaced. Currently today, with my in-house staff, with the staff I have on board, we're only at about 648. So I'm falling 4,000 and 5,000 poles behind schedule every single year that we don't have contracts on board. This is just the beginning. This is a ramp up. It takes a lot of effort for us to even ramp up to getting this. This is even more than we've done in the past. And we gotta. It's a lot of coordination to get that kind of work done, from not just from the construction side, but from the planning side, from the engineering. It takes a lot of work to go out and do all the inspections we need to do to identify our assets and the conditions of our assets, and prioritize those assets, and then engineer those assets, and then get those work packages put together and get them into the queue for this work to get done. So we're ramping up in a lot of areas to get DWP a safe, reliable system that we need and what the citizens of Los Angeles deserve. So there's a lot of work that's going on here, and I just wanted to make sure that we all understood that this is not the end all for what we need to do in a department. There's a lot more rebuilding that needs to go on and down the road to get us where we need to go.
I just wanted to make a clarification in regard to your question about bonus. We're prohibited, and I'll defer to the city attorney on this, but from giving a bonus because we're a public sector organization.
Well, we haven't. And I know Caltrans does.
Caltrans does,
but I've not seen it in the city of Los Angeles. I really would have to look into it, because obviously if it was a bonus situation, it would have to be part of the specs and the terms and conditions of the bid.
And at Metro,
I've never seen it.
At Metro, we were prohibited from, it was, the lawyer said it was a gift of public money if we did a bonus.
I have to understand my methodology. It's just to incentivize people instead of having the redundancy of too many people overseeing the work that we're contracting out. I feel better after you've given me the numbers of our employees that'll be overseeing the 200. I thought it was greater than you said 10. Yeah, 10. So that seems fairly reasonable.
There's actually an important point that I failed to mention in my introduction of this whole item, and that is we are not asking for a vote from you today on this issue, and I really apologize for not stating that at the outset. This is informational. We're trying to build on the past presentation that we did with respect to what is the whole power system reliability program about. These are major contracts for that work, and we will bring these back for your action at the January board meeting.
Presumably, you will be asking for a vote.
At which point in time, we clearly will be asking for a vote in January for this. And to that extent, if there are additional questions that you have, not only today, but questions that come up today that you want to make sure that we're available to address those, you can get them to us prior to that meeting or even at the next meeting, because we realize this is something that's new and different to what you've dealt with in the past.
I do think it would be helpful then the next time around if you could just carve out how much the ratepayers will be paying this contractor and how much of the budget will be going towards our employees that will be overseeing this contractor. Thank you.
I'd just like to add, Commissioner Noonan, is, we structured this contract as a price or time and equipment. It's not what we call a lump sum where they replace a pole, they get a fixed price. And so they do the work safely because they know it's time and equipment. And then we have oversight, like Daryl mentioned, of 10 inspectors. Now, we did this study back even in 2001 to 2005. What is the industry standard? And we know what Edison does, we know what PG&E does, and we found out that this is the best way to process a contract and administer a contract and get quality work at the lowest price.
Dr. Pickle.
This overall program is very important from the ratepayer perspective because reliability is important from the ratepayer perspective. Unfortunately, these programs are very expensive, and contracting out does have the potential to reduce the cost from the ratepayer's perspective. But DWP hasn't done a huge amount of contracting out in this area. So I think it's important that we be informed in a variety of ways as these contracts move forward, and also how measures of performance in these contracts fit with the overall program. You just heard an important set of numbers, that we should be replacing 5,000 poles per year, and that number came out of the 2006 EPRI study. But we currently only have the staff to replace under 700 per year. And I believe in calendar 2012, only 800 were replaced, so we're falling further and further behind. So it's important we be successful in this. And I suggest a report back after to the board on these contracts with DWP staff conferring with RPA before the reports in 3 areas. One, a broadly conceived risk management plan for these contracts. When I say broadly conceived, it would include everything from the metrics on business cost to issues like reliability and potential for fraud and other measures. Second, a report back on expected performance for these contracts and how that expected performance fits with the overall program. And the third is routine report backs on actual performance and how that fits with the overall program performance.
Mr. General Manager, do you have any objection to that recommendation?
I don't. I would like to get an opportunity afterwards to kind of sit down and refine that, make sure we're understanding the aspects so that we have a common end goal in that report back. But conceptually, I have no problem with that.
Absolutely.
Does that require a motion?
I don't believe so. To me, I'm taking under guidance, and I guess to the extent that there's a spirit of the commissioners that they would like us to do that, I take that as such.
Yeah, I believe there is.
I have spirit.
And I hear no disagreement. No disagreement to the spirit.
That was a straight line.
Thank you.
I handed you one.
Well, we engage in the spirit. Does anybody else wish, Dr. Barad?
My mother always wanted me to be a doctor, so it sounds good. I just wanted to ask on several of these, it says LADWP agrees to a minimum expenditure of 25%. What does that mean?
Okay. These contracts are price and time, 1 year with 2 optional extension periods, and each extension is for 1 year. We only guarantee the expenditure of 25% for the first year, and that's called the contractual period.
Oh.
So you look at the dollar value. Can you tell me, please, which board package you're looking at so we can look at the same?
Well, let's look at,
531?
let's see, I was
Which one
looking
you
at
looking at?
item, it's actually there on item 15 and 16. That's kind of what I was looking at.
Okay. So normally when it comes to, I know I showed you this spec, when it comes to these type of specs, okay, we only have 2 types of specs, 3-digit or 4-digit. 3 digits, like this one, this is 532, is called price and time, and only on an as-needed basis. We don't guarantee the contractor that we're going to spend all the money. We guarantee only we're going to spend 25% of what the board approves for the first year. The second year and the third year, we have 0 guarantee. We don't guarantee. If we don't need it, we don't need it. Versus a lump sum where the board approved that big contract last month, the Scatter Olympic, for $47 million. That one has optional items, but when it comes to the item that's not an option, they bid $31 million to complete 10 miles of underground transmission. We're going to be spending that money when they completed the work.
So the 25% is the first year?
Yes,
Is that
only
what you're
first
saying?
year. So almost, I always like to call it like, as an example, when you hire a painter to do, your house, you can pay him daily, or you can say, okay, I'll pay you $2,500 to complete the paint. So fixed price, a lump sum, or you pay him, daily. And for some reason, if you don't have a contract where you'll guarantee you're going to hire him every day, then you can let him go. In this case, we're only tied to the dollar amount. So we only guarantee to spend 25% of that dollar amount.
Okay. All right. I want to understand the way
Okay.
the contracts are written. So I'm looking now at item 16.
Okay.
It says minimum expenditure, and it's $6,743,201. I mean, it's a lot. Then it says maximum expenditure, 26 million.
Okay.
And so that's a big difference
Okay.
between 6 million and 26 million. And
So if you look at the board letter, I'm looking at page 2 of the board letter. So the original contractual period, this one, the maximum expenditure is 26 million.
yeah,
That's for the original contractual period, and the minimum is 25%. So that's 6 million. Are we on page 2?
25%. Oh, yeah.
That's
Mhm.
fine. Now you look at the first optional period, you look at the second, there's 0 guarantee
Right,
or
right,
minimum.
right. Mhm.
But there is, and I mentioned there is a 2.3% increase for the optional years because
Mhm.
it's tied to union wages, cost of living adjustment.
Right.
So now the maximum expenditure is 82,086,000, but the minimum is 6 because
That's a big difference between 6 million and 82
right,
million.
because that is only minimum for the first year. The optional year have 0 guarantee. There is a
Okay.
big difference.
All right. Well, then what
I'd
would
like to
be-
add one comment real
Yeah.
quick. We are expecting to maximize all of these contracts. So,
If they get approved.
if approved, our goal is to maximize the expenditures on all of these
You mean
contracts.
to use the maximum number?
Yes.
All right. So
Because
what-
that's the more money we spend, the more of our assets that are going to be replaced. And keep in mind that these contracts alone will not get us where we need to go. So we really do need to maximize the most that we can get out of these contracts. So our goal is really to maximize what.
Okay, so
what
I guess
expenditures are.
that's kind of a segue to my question, is that what would be entailed that would go from 6 to 26?
The number of poles you replace. So I'll give you an example for on a contract 532, and I don't know which item that is, my guess is number 15 or 16. But on contract 532, our goal at maximizing out that contract is to get somewhere around 1,100 poles replaced on that contract alone. But that'll also give us an additional 6,500 cross arms, another, almost 700 transformers replaced, and what we call our fix-it tickets, we're looking at about 539 fix-it tickets. That contract, that's our expected expenditure and number of assets that we're expecting to replace on that contract.
Okay, because I know that a lot of contracts in business are written with a 10% contingency. So that's what I was asking you. Why is this different than a straight 10% contingency?
Right. And I know last month when we brought you contract 7422, it had a 15% contingency. Normally, a lump sum, 4-digit contract, if needed, we ask for a contingency. This one, the contingency is built in. So we don't ask for a contingency on a 3-digit contract. 531, which is the first contract, it has a minimum of 25% up to 125%. So when we went out to bid, we expected that's the estimated to be about $39 million. And if you add the 125%, it comes up to $47 million. That's why we're asking the board to approve. The other two contracts, 532 and 540, the maximum expenditure is only 100%. And the reason is because of the dollar value. We want to just keep it at 82 million, even though Daryl probably maybe likes the 125%, but we kept it at 100%. So really, it depends on what master clause, how we structure the spec.
But I think your Commissioner's question is because the contingency in this case is controlled by the widgets, the number that so we have a means for us to make sure we don't cross the approved amount. So we don't ask for the additional safety net, for unknown. Right. Remember the question you had about the cable, because we had some unknown bridge crossings and stuff like that. We said we need that because we don't know exactly what we're getting into. In this case, for example, if we're asking the board to approve the ceiling, knowing that contractually we can cut the contract off at 25%. So if you approve $100, contractually we can spend $25 and stop. Between the $25 and the $100 is all about the number of units that we could deploy out there.
Wouldn't a contractor, seeing the higher number, get to the higher number?
No, not if we don't issue the packages for them to do. So if we don't ask them to replace a pole, they don't get paid for the pole. So if we have, let's say every pole is $1, just for math's sake, we have 25 poles that we ask them to do, we pay them $25, that's contractually obligating us to the floor of the contract. But if we don't issue anything above the $25, if we don't issue a single package, we have met our obligations and they don't get paid because they don't have any more poles to put in. So that's the difference. That's a good question.
Yes.
Thank you.
And also these contracts, they have suspension. And in 2009, the board approved a contract that was supposed to expire December 10, 2012. But under the terms and condition in Division E1, we have the right to suspend these contracts. And we suspended them, and if it goes beyond 90 days, then the contractor, can terminate by sending a letter to the board requesting termination of the contract. It was a $60 million contract, and we only spent 35. That was our need. That's what was funded. That's what was in the budget. So we ended up terminating these contracts in April. We suspended them in November of 2011, and they got terminated in April, May of 2012. So again, the main thing is we do not cross that limit. The board approved, the 82 million. We do not cross it, and we have that between 25% and 100%.
And we'll have something to show for it.
We keep records. I mean, we exactly know how much we're spending. Yes.
Thank you.
I had a couple of questions that I'll make pretty brief. The only thing that I would want to request before we have our vote on this is that City Controller Galperin, before he was elected, was the chair of the Commission on Revenue Efficiency, and they produced a report in March of last year that recommended efficiencies in procurement for the city's proprietary departments and methodologies for analysis. Now, that might not apply to us necessarily, because it might be more appropriate to compare us to other public power suppliers and not just other city agencies. But I would just, if there could be some analysis made in terms of the bigger picture in light of Commissioner Noonan's comment and other concerns about procurement, on how we're using the recommendations for the Committee on Revenue Efficiency, because they specifically went to keeping dollars local and using contracting to leverage with the business community in the city of LA to make the business climate more friendly as well. So I would just ask that some comment be made on that. I'm also very supportive of keeping the collaborative relationship that the ratepayer advocate has had with the commission, and I take very seriously Dr. Pickles' concern about falling behind every year. I don't think that this is something that, I think it's something we need to pay attention to, and I'm supportive of you, Mr. Nichols, for trying to reinvent how the metrics and benchmarking is done in the future as well. The last thing is the location of these pole replacements. Does it go way far north of Mulholland? Is that just kind of a dividing line, or is it simply?
No, well, we have two contracts. One's for north of Mulholland, one's for south of Mulholland. So these contracts cover all of the city of Los Angeles.
Thank you.
I want to just second Commissioner Funderburk's remarks with regard to the collaboration with the ratepayer advocate and the DWP, and also with regard to the benchmarking suggestions of Mr. Nichols. It happens that simultaneously with Mr. Nichols' comments about benchmarking and these discussions, I've received a letter from the mayor, and copies I know are coming to each of the other commissioners, and I have a suspicion that this is not a private communication, and that this will be, if it hasn't already been released to the press, it will be a public communication from the mayor, which says, "Dear Commission President Mel Levine, on behalf of the ratepayers of Los Angeles, I am directing the department to engage a qualified outside consulting firm to conduct a benchmarking study, including but not limited to comparison of labor costs and work practices at the Department of Water and Power to other municipal and investor-owned utility companies across the United States. This benchmarking study will identify opportunities to achieve greater efficiency and cost savings for ratepayers. Sincerely, Eric Garcetti, Mayor," with copies to William Funderburk, Jill Banks Barad, Michael Fleming, Christina Noonan, and Ron Nichols. This is certainly consistent with what Mr. Nichols had referenced earlier today, and it relates not only to this matter, but more broadly to issues where we can be trying to assess greater efficiency and cost savings for ratepayers. I would like to ask my colleagues to take a look at this letter as they receive it. I'm going to make a motion later in the meeting to endorse this recommendation. Are there other questions or comments on these three items? Thank you very, very much. Very helpful, and I trust we'll be hearing from you again at our next meeting.
Thank you.
That takes us to item 18. This is the bid number 7375 regarding construction of the Owens Lake Dust Mitigation Project Phase 7A. We have Do we have any cards on this that have not spoken?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Okay, the first, the speaker is J.D. Smith for item 18.
Mr. President, I gave you a package last time I was here with some information specifically about this bid, and you said you were going to look into it, and I wanted to know if you had the time to do that.
Well, we have spent quite a bit of time reviewing a lot of information on this bid, so.
Okay. Well, I'm here to talk about the things that the bidder should have done. I mean, the bid should have included 3 low bidders. This bid for almost $250 million only included 2 bidders. Now, the specs and the regulations states that the engineer should consider 3 bids. So I think that's room enough to reject this bid. And number 2, the outreach program that was in the original specs has been taken out of these specs. Therefore, minority contractors, subcontractors, have no rights to protest or do anything about this. And number 3, there is a good faith effort rule, number 12, that says Bernard Construction is supposed to negotiate in good faith with minority contractors and small businesses in Los Angeles and disabled veterans businesses like myself. That was not done. I turned in a bid to Bernard Construction, and they would not negotiate with me. That's 3 rules they broke. So on those grounds, I recommend that you reject this bid, rebid it, and give everybody a chance in Los Angeles to have a chance at getting work. This is $250 million, and there are thousands of subcontractors like myself who did not get a chance to bid, and that, I think, is wrong, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, if I could ask for a moment for, this issue came up at a prior meeting, and I'm not an attorney. I would like our attorney to respond to this issue, because I think it warrants an explanation to the gentleman. But I think the commissioners need to understand as well that this is that what we did was lawful. There are alternative approaches that are taken under this, and I would like to have I guess Gwen explain this, since she's consulted with counsel. So.
Gwen Williams, Director of Supply Chain Services. I believe that the gentleman is speaking to the fact that we made a change in January of this year about our NEBI-WEBI program. We used to have a minority and women-owned business program, but the previous mayor enacted an ordinance that changed to an SBE and DVBE program. So there's no specific program for a number of reasons, Prop 209, that we don't have a NEBI-WEBI program. We have an SBE program. So we encourage our contractors to reach out to minority and women-owned businesses, but they don't have to. They only have to meet the SBE goal. The other change that we made was, it used to be that we only had a good faith effort program, and they had to do all of that paperwork that said they'd made a good faith effort. We consulted with 5 advocacy organizations, the Latin Business Association, the Black Business Association, and they didn't like the Good Faith Effort program. They thought it was a paper program. And so what we did was we said, now we have a program where you can either do the Good Faith Effort, which is the outreach program with the documentation of letters, or you can actually meet the goal which we thought would be more productive because we'd allow them to actually bring vendors on board, small business enterprises or disabled veteran business enterprises, rather than just doing the documentation of sending letters by certified mail, etc. We've had mixed results with that. Some of them still continue to do the paper exercise and meet the good faith effort, but some of them, like Barnard in this case, met the goal by having the minimum, I think it was 20 to 25% was the requirement that they met the goal. And they've got a number of firms that they're subcontracting out. And so some of them may not be minorities or they may not be women because we don't have that program any longer. We just have an SBE program. That may be his concern.
No, ma'am. I am a small business and I am a veteran-owned business, which is what's in the program. Now, when I reached out to them, they were supposed to negotiate with me in good faith.
Sir, your speaking time is
Well,
over.
we'll let him speak for another 2 minutes.
They were supposed to negotiate with me in good faith. That they broke the rules. Now, I am a disabled veteran. That's in your program. SBAs and DVBEs is in your program. They did not follow the rules. Thank you.
Well, I guess we'd have to do some more research in terms of whether they negotiated in good faith, but they did meet the DVBE goal. They hired GMC Equipment Corporation and to the tune of 0.58%.
I had a quick question for you, Ms. Williams. I did notice that there were not any LA businesses on this.
Well, one of the challenges they've had, because
Is it the distance? Is it
in a previous life,
So it's a transfer.
I audited Owens Lake, and that was a problem, is the distance. It's
So you actually did audit the Owens Lake procurements at one point?
one of them, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Thanks.
Let me procedurally mention that if there are questions on this item related to the potential litigation, we should do those in closed session. But any other discussion of this that does not pertain to the potential litigation, we can have proceed in open session. Gentlemen?
Thank you. Good morning. Marty Adams, Director of Water Operations. With me is Bill Van Wagner, our Owens Lake Project Manager, and Nelson Mejia, who is our manager of this contract, as well as just finished delivering the Phase 8 gravel project. So he's been working on Owens Lake for doing the dirty work for a number of years. This contract is to complete the current obligation that the city has made on Owens Lake. It is the last part of what was Phase 7, which was the result of a 2006 settlement agreement and a 2008 stipulated state implementation plan, pardon me, and that called for a little over 13 miles of additional dust controls. And I'll go through briefly the phases showing, but most of that work was done, but as you're aware, there are a little over 3 miles of control areas that we have not completed. And so what was Phase 7 has now become Phase 7A, which is before you, and this is the completion of that. And this, as I said, this completes what the city has agreed to at this point. It does not address any of the projects that the city has contested or take exception with, and so this agreement goes back to 2006 and a 2005 original order from the Great Basin Unified Air Pollution Control District. Just to preface, before I go through the phases, there's a lot of question about costs, and this is a very expensive project. And you'll see that it looks expensive, particularly compared to what we've paid in the past. This is about a third more of what we spend in capital on Owens Lake. But the capital cost alone does not tell the story, because as you're aware, we have about 30 square miles of shallow flooding on the lake, and that flooding costs us about $1.5 million plus a year for replacement water. And every drop of water we put in the lake has to be purchased from Metropolitan Water District. This year in October, we went into Tier 2 for our MET purchases, which tagged on an additional $150 an acre foot. So we're paying an additional about $10 to $12 million for that water on Owens Lake this year because we have such poor aquifer deliveries because of the weather. And we've been, basically, the Tier 2 is more than the entire amount of water on Owens Lake. So every drop of water on Owens Lake has cost us a premium this year. And so that does add to the cost, and it's not real evident, so that's why I like to show you the phases and how we got to this point, how this project stacks up to what we've done in the past. So far, the 45 square miles, we have completed 42. This will be the last 3 to make the 45 miles of our commitment so far. And the construction, we began this in 2000, and so it's been going on for the last dozen plus years. Do I have this controller? See if I got the right button. There we go. Okay. Thank you. So this started, our first phase was Phase 1 North, completed in 2001. It was 12 miles of shallow flooding. It was probably the lowest hanging fruit there was. It was only $6 million a mile to construct that work. But again, using water, we're instead of doing over 30 years, we said, what's the cost of this water over 20 years? Because we realized that there's a lot of work that has to go on the lake because of the salt conditions and the weather conditions. So we're not trying to overestimate the lifespan. And so over 20 years, at the current MET rate, that we spent about $30 million a mile making sure that dust control works. And so when you look at $6 million a mile as the initial cost, it was a way that we had to do to meet the deadlines, and it was the cheap way out initially, but that $6 million a mile is actually $37 million a mile over 20 years.
30.7.
Did I say? Oh, no, 30.7 plus the 6.2. So this 37 million is more the real cost. And just to be clear, so how I base that, there's about 4 feet of evaporation per year out there, and 4 feet on 640 acres in a mile times $600 an acre foot, which is about the approximate MET rate. And I did not have a chance to go through and look at the escalated MET rate, so this is on the current MET rate. We know the MET rate's going up every year, and so it actually will be more expensive than this. So the cheapest thing we did on the lake is actually still as much as $37 million a mile. Phase 1 South was our managed veg experiment. You can notice it was a good amount of money for that. The managed veg involved growing and planting 27 million plants of saltgrass plants on the lake. We had to take over 2 greenhouses and have those plants propagated because you can't go to the nursery and find saltgrass. And so we had to harvest seed, had the plants propagated and plant those. This is done in the green area at the south end of the lake there. It's about like I say, 3.5 miles of the saltgrass. It saves some water, but it still uses about half the water of the shallow flood, so it's not a complete savings in water. And at that volume, it still costs about $15.3 million a year, $15.3 million per mile over the course of 20 years. So if you looked at the cost of that, saltgrass is still running about $29 million a mile over a 20-year period. So again, it's not as cheap as initial investment would make it appear. Phase 2 was adding a little bit of shallow flood. This was getting more expensive. We're getting to areas that are harder to reach. Places that are superior on the lake, it's harder to move equipment. There's no roads in existence, no way around on the lake. So there's a good amount of infrastructure that has to be constructed, even for a small project. This project ended up being almost $11.5 million a mile to construct, plus the cost of water. So this makes this one a $42 million a mile project over a 20-year lifespan. Phase 3 was strictly infrastructure. We built a main line connecting our turnouts from the north and south ends of the lake. It was a $40 million project. It basically fed the Phase 4, 5, and 7. Everybody always wondered where Phase 6 is. We had one north and one south, so we eventually just absorbed them and skipped phase 6, so we could keep straight. So this is the 4, 5, and then the 7th phase is the 7th one. So that would add, if you portion that over, that add about $2 million a mile to the subsequent areas that were built in those phases, the 20 miles of flooding that was built since then. Phase 4, back completed in 2005, was 2 miles of shallow flooding. Now we're into this new price range where the shallow flooding's running a little over $11 million a mile to build. Again, at $11 million a mile to build, it's the cheapest to construct, but at $30.7 million a mile over the 20-year life, it becomes, again, about $43 million a mile to actually have that dust control in place for 20 years. Phase 5, the following year, over 10 miles of shallow flooding, a very small gravel patch. It's that little gravel road about 100 yards wide that goes a little ways. Very expensive, over $100 million. We're still sitting there in the $10 million a mile range. And so, again, this is about $40+ million a mile when you add the water to it. So the projects that look cheap at the beginning don't end up being a whole lot cheaper in the long run. And then, of course, they hurt the water supply. So this takes us to Phase 7. Phase 7, it was the 2006 settlement agreement and 2008 SIP, as I mentioned. In 2010, we completed the first 10 miles. That was a little over 9 miles of flooding, something called the channel area, which has been kind of it's a sensitive habitat area. It's got some sprinklers and some pulse flows putting out there. It's kind of handled as a unique situation. And then a little bit of sand fencing. It was a $119 million project, so again, we're about almost getting $12 million a mile primarily for flooding at this point. And so that makes it, I think, about $43 million a mile. You see the ticker at the bottom there. We're then at the project's at a $430 million total for just under 40 miles of dust controls. And that's the capital cost, not looking at the water cost. Phase 7A, this is the 6 remaining areas. They're the dark blue areas. They're separate from each other. So it's 3 miles over 6 areas. We're supposed to use waterless dust control. This was originally supposed to be a moat and row demonstration project. In 2008, when we went forward with the rest of Phase 7, State Lands Commission refused to consider the moat and row part of the lease and sent us back to do some additional work at CEQA. We followed up with a subsequent CEQA document, and then eventually in April of 2010, we were denied the lease to use moat and row, and that put us on our first delay for Phase 7 in completing this, and that's what led us to build the Phase 8 gravel project. At that time, shallow flooding seemed to be the only suitable. There's some gravel might have been allowed in some of the areas of Phase 7A or 7, those remaining areas. Shallow flooding was the only reasonable option in some of the areas because of the building conditions out there. So originally that project was going to be moat and row. That project would have been a real answer for us. It was about $20 million, so it would have been about $6.5 million a mile with no water cost. So other than O&M costs like elsewhere on the lake, there would have been no water costs. That would have been the cheapest alternative for dust control and a way ahead, but it was not allowed by the landowner. As a result of that, as I mentioned, we accepted Phase 8, which was a gravel project. It was 2 miles of gravel at a $66 million cost, so it cost about, actually it's a little over 2 miles, so about $32.5 million a mile for the gravel. That was 4 inches of gravel over a gravel blanket. The advantage is there's no water cost, so that is the final cost other than O&M like we experienced elsewhere on the lake. And that brought us to Phase 7A, our new challenge. So Phase 7A, this is the new project replacing the moat and row project. Where that moat and row project was a $20 million project. This new project that you have before you is $229 million. If you look at it as the 3 miles that need to be done, it averages $74 million a mile. It's very expensive. If you look at it as the total areas that we're working on, there's work actually on 6 square miles because we're in this situation. We have a direction from the board, plus direction, practically speaking, because we have no more pipe capacity to not put additional water on the lake. So we're working within the water balance that we have. The only waterless dust control method we have is gravel. That's the only thing available to us. But gravel will not work on all of the Phase 7 areas. It'll work in about a third of it, of those remaining areas, and we have gravel planned for that. And the other areas are too salty to grow anything. And so it basically leaves us with trying to find water from existing places on the lake to move that water to the areas that have to be flooded in Phase 7, which is some of those, the dark blue areas. So the dark blue areas are the same ones you saw earlier in Phase 7. The hashed areas are the 3 miles that we're going to transition, and we're going to transition to take water from those areas. A little bit of it will become gravel, some of it will become different kinds of vegetation, and some will be different ways of flooding, so that we can take water from those areas and use it and spread that water around the lake. And so that's why this becomes a 6-mile project instead of a 3-mile project. The net water use on this project is 0. So we don't save water, but we don't use any more water to get these other miles. So it's effectively waterless. One of the thoughts behind this is that we're limited by what the landowner will allow in terms of permission. We have time constraints. We only have one waterless vacuum, even though we're trying to get others, which would make the project cheaper, but we don't have those as a tool for us at this time. We have commitment to use no more water in the lake, and then we also wanted to try to show that this idea of a habitat suitability model, which we've talked about with the master project, would work. And the idea was to balance the value of the habitat and use those ideals in how we pull water off parts of this lake without hurting existing habitat that's being created. So this project has created habitat that was not there before. Now that habitat has to remain, and so we've worked with the Department of Fish and Wildlife and the other interested parties up there to come up with a project which would be a demonstration of how to maintain the value of the habitat, but still take water away from existing areas to use it elsewhere. And so those are the ideals incorporated into this project and into the transition areas. The last thing, just to tell you, these are the other areas that are hanging out there. I won't get into discussions about these, but this is Phase 9, 10, and what they call watch areas, which would be future orders. There's about 5 square miles plus any transition areas that we need to similarly take water if we were to be ordered to do this work and accept that responsibility or lose our appeals. The estimated cost of those areas, because they're spread out, and you see around the lake the red, and then the gold is the watch areas, could be anywhere from $280 to $400 million, and some of that's depending on whether we're allowed to use more gravel by State Lands Commission or not, because every time we get a gravel lease, they say don't expect another one, and so it's a big question mark for us. If we did have waterless dust controls, such as tillage and such as engineered roughness that the Great Basin's working on now, the project could potentially be as low as $100 million to do those other areas. But those are tools that we don't have available to us at this time. The flip side is that if we did do additional area and we had to spread water around on the lake, we'd see these costs like that $35 million a mile to transition areas, but we wouldn't see savings from the water. Our goal in our master project proposal has always been to transition areas but save that water and put it back in the aqueduct. So if you need a situation in the future that looks like Phase 7A, then all we're doing is spreading the same amount of water around on the lake. We have 1 scoop of peanut butter and it's a bigger piece of bread. So we gotta basically try to get water back in the aqueduct. But if we're in a situation where we have additional area and don't have additional tools, we won't see savings from water coming back to us. So this is a brief and hopefully not too complicated version of how we got to where we are. We're basically working within a box that's been drawn by the landowner and the regulator and our own limitations on water. It's an expensive project. It does, if you look at it per mile, it's not as far off from the other projects. And certainly there's hidden costs with doing the cheaper project up front. And we've seen that both in terms of the effects on our water supply and the cost of replacement water to the customers. So.
Marty, if I could just have you add, want to make sure one thing is clear there. You had on that slide up there a requirement with regard to 7A that we have to be done by December
yes.
of 2015.
Yes.
And that there was an earlier commentator that indicated, why don't we not approve this and let's look at other options and such. And I know it's a combination of legal and technical, but at the end of the day, absent getting some relief with respect to that end date, we would be
would be in violation.
Facing violation and facing significant daily fines if we didn't complete it by that time.
Right, and fines could be substantial. And that's the problem, is that, we have hope for tillage, we have hope for other options. This engineered roughness test is not even a vacuum test, but it might hold something for the future. The problem becomes the problem that they faced in 2000, and that's that there's regulatory deadlines, and there's a very limited set of choices in the meantime. And without relief from those deadlines, the chance to do a better project or do something more creative is extremely limited. And so that's the position we find ourselves in.
Well, that actually ties into I have a handful of questions, and they're all linked to this deadline. I was interested in the comments that were made earlier and the idea of this coordination process and what your thoughts were about the prospects of looking into that. I take it the deadline looms large in that context, but I'd be interested in your thoughts. I'm sure you heard the initial comments. Yes. I'd like to hear about those. And I don't know what is there a way of extending the deadline if it looks like we have maybe some other options we want to consider? And also, it's a multiple question, is there any possibility of going back to the State Lands Commission on Moton Row? I don't know when and how. I know they were very firm. I don't know when it was, and I don't know whether there's any prospect of going back to them. So those are disjointed, but hopefully you got the gist.
Try to get them all. I think that in terms of the process that Dr. Enstrom mentioned earlier, we'd be interested in a process like that. The question is, can we have a stop to our requirements in the meantime? Somebody have to give us a stay of execution in the meantime. So if we were able to get that, we could do anything, and we could revisit that or wait for other options. Julie Riley could correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that if the Great Basin Board voted another extension or a time extension to do a different project, or if they knew that we were on the cusp of a great success for a waterless Backum that could be used here, that I believe that it's in their bailiwick to make that decision and to allow us to do that. We currently don't have that, and I don't know if we'd be successful in getting that, but that'd be the only deadline relief, because that's the last stipulated order of abatement that we entered into. And
so it's basically up to the Great Basin Board?
I believe so. Julie?
Yes.
Hi.
Okay.
Julie Riley for the City Attorney's Office. The department entered into a stipulated order of abatement, and it has a settlement agreement with the Great Basin Governing Board, and it includes a term which would allow the Great Basin Board to modify the terms of the agreement.
And the State Lands Commission?
The State Lands Commission, they did this in April 2010. It was a long battle, and we eventually, because we went around and around with them for so long, we said, you have to tell us something. You have to tell us yes or no, but we went months and months and months trying to answer every possible question. They could reconsider. I mean, there will be some issues with Fish and Game permit and what we do, but there was no reason in the world that Moton Row would not have worked. It had some aesthetic issues, but it was it's $6.5 million a mile with no water costs. It was the way that we were going, and we were going there in good faith with everybody. And then when that rug got pulled out from underneath us, not only did it raise the cost of this project, it got us into Phase 8 gravel project as a mitigation for being late. It got us into $6.5 million of payments for air quality projects in the 3 counties that make up Great Basin for even being further late, because we found all the cultural artifacts in the work areas. So if they could be convinced, it's possible. But they'd have to agree to it. It would need a new CEQA, or we'd have to revive the old CEQA. There's a lot of players involved at this point. This is a balanced project, trying to use our new balanced approach, but it's not the only approach possible.
If we were to approve this contract, could we pull back if we could get CSLC to reverse their position?
My understanding, and Nelson, do you want to have an answer on that?
It's not the issue with the California State Lands Commission. It's the permit with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. And my understanding is when
the contract is not in effect until Mr. Nichols signs off on it. So we could pull back at some point if we don't reach an agreement with Wildlife.
In order to meet the deadline, if the deadline doesn't change, when would the activity under this contract have to begin, assuming that there's no relief available in another form?
You have to approve in January sometime?
We need to approve in January sometime. Our schedule shows to start construction in early February. The key here is the seeding seasons. You know, our experts are telling us that we need to seed at certain times during the year. We missed those opportunities. We have to wait another year. That's why this is such a rush for us.
And that's for the vegetation to grow.
Yes.
And what Nelson was mentioning in terms of Fish and Wildlife, so if we did get state lands to do something different, we'll have to deal with 1,600 permit issues, which we're going through right now.
Other questions by commissioners? I know 2 commissioners are going to get a first-hand look at this tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yes.
Yes. I just have a quick question. If we were to approve this, and it says that the estimated construction duration is 18 months, then do you anticipate you would come back again in 18 months asking for another $229 million?
No, this is a lump sum contract. The contractor has, if we enter this agreement, they agree to construct this project for that price. And that should include contingencies as well in case there's unforeseen circumstances.
And the $229 million includes the contingency, the 10% contingency?
Yes, it does.
How does the Great Basin Board feel about Moten Row?
I have never heard them weigh in. Bill, have you heard them say specifically?
I haven't heard the board weigh in. I do know the air pollution control officer does not like it. He has concerns that while it works, he doesn't believe it works well enough.
Right. So what happens, a lot of it becomes an issue of your spacing, because there's an area that the wind could catch the soil between the rows, and then if it moves the sand, it could scarify the surface. So the trick is to put them far enough apart to make it economical, but not so far apart that it doesn't work effectively. It was experimental. We had where the tillage test is currently, that I think most of you have seen, was a prior Moten Row site, and there was one at the north end of the lake as well. We believe it was working. It's not an approved BACM, so it would have to go through the process, but it was part of the project so that it could become approved. So it was a part of the project before. But as they are with tillage, they're concerned about any time you use the lake surface to control the lake as opposed to covering it with gravel or water or vegetation. There's concerns, and those are concerns that we have to help them get past.
Other questions?
There's an item that's come up from council that I think would be helpful if we could have a short closed session discussion on a legal item.
Okay. So before we vote on
Before you vote on the matter. Yes.
Okay, well, are there any other open session questions that members would like to ask?
I did have one question for you, Mr. Adams. And it won't be about what happened on Homeland earlier this weekend. But how much money under this particular contract will we be spending as of June or July of 2014?
The schedule, Nelson?
I do.
I'll defer to the expert.
Our budget for the current year is $45 million.
But through June of 2014?
Through June, yes, because we're starting late in the fiscal year. Supposedly we're starting in February, so we only have February, March, April.
So we plan on spending $45 million between February and June of 2014?
Spend, not necessarily dispersed.
But commit to?
Yes, commit.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we will recess for a closed session, and then we'll resume. Counsel?
Yes, sir. In reference to Section 24A1.
Got it. Okay, very good.
wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
We're recording?
Family?
We're recording.
You set? Okay, we're back in session. We're going to now defer the remaining conversation on item 18 until the end of the open session, and we'll try to get through items 19 through 22 before that.
Commissioner, I do want to make one point out on item 18 of
Yes.
a non-voting related matter, and that is, you might have noticed that it's a different format than you have seen before on our board. That will be our new board letter format going forward. That lays out, I think, lays out more clearly, and it will be a more standard format when we have attachments to it that I think will be easier for the board to follow and will allow us to append information in a manner that I think will, once we kind of get used to it, I think will make you better informed and easier to go find pieces of information related to it in more standard format.
And we'll get it earlier?
I don't promise that part.
Item 19, financial services, payment for special city services for fiscal year 2013-2014.
Good morning, Ann Santilli, Financial Services Organization. Right now, the city has certain functions such as legal and the city treasury where the services are consolidated under one department, and then the chief administrative officer bills those out to the benefiting departments. And every year they go through this process, and what they call it is the city billing. So before you today is for approval is an estimated city billing charge from the CAO for services that the DWP will be benefiting from. They have central services which are not directly related to the department, but we do have benefits for them, such as the controller's office and other liaison offices. And then we have direct charges such as legal, the banking services of the city and such. So what the CAO does is they come up and they estimate the charges. We pay the estimated bill, and during the next fiscal year, they true up those charges, and usually on our last payment, we either get a new bill, which we come back to you and ask for approval for, or we get a credit, and we reduce our last payment by that amount. So, so that is what is we're asking for your approval on.
Thank you. Comments, questions? Is there a motion of approval?
I'll move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor? Aye. It's approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
20, approval of resolution authorizing execution of appliance exchange and recycling program participation agreement with the Southern California Public Power Association, SCAPA. Gentlemen.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm David Jaco, Director of the Energy Efficiency Group. This is Steve Starks. He manages our mass market portfolio of energy efficiency programs in that group. Okay, this is for the continuation of our refrigerator exchange and refrigerator recycling programs. Long-running successful programs that have replaced, that have given out over 39,000 energy efficient refrigerators to our low-income customers, and exchanged many more than that. About 25,000 refrigerators have been recycled through that program. These programs allow us to get older refrigerators out of circulation. They save our customers quite a bit of money, up to perhaps $8 a month, which over the life of the unit adds up to about $1,000. Very significant energy savings for our low-income customers that have a refrigerator exchange, a qualified refrigerator exchange. Now, for our customers that are motivated by the incentive we offer to turn in a second refrigerator, their bill savings are even more, much more substantial. Very commonly, a customer may buy a new refrigerator but migrate their old refrigerator to the garage and then run it with a six-pack of soda in it, and it's sitting out there serving virtually no useful purpose, but consuming significantly more energy than their new refrigerator. So recycling those and encouraging our customers to turn those in for our free pickup service saves them substantial amounts on their bills. The mechanism for this program is what we're asking for, is to continue what we've been doing, which is through a SCAPA contract. And SCAPA has procured the services of ARCA, which is the Appliance Recycling Centers of America. And they've procured them through a competitive bid process. In the board letter, there's the evaluation scores for that process. SCAPA is offering ARCA to its members for use for this service, and that, of course, is us asking for it, but a number of the other municipal utilities that are participating, that are members of SCAPA, are leveraging this contract as well. Glendale, Pasadena, others listed in the board letter as well.
This is a great program. I want to compliment you on its success, and I hope that it gets as much exposure as possible. Those are my only thoughts on the subject. Commissioner Broad?
If it's costing DWP $25 million a year for the customers to get rebates, what's the bottom line? What's the benefit to DWP?
Well, the program is cost effective over the life cycle of the units. So that means we invest $25 million in this, and it retires enough refrigerators and replaces enough refrigerators with low consuming device, with high efficiency refrigerators, that the energy savings resulting from that outweigh the program costs over the life cycle. And there's a cost effectiveness calculation that goes into that, and it's an avoided cost, net present value, life cycle cost calculation.
So you've made those calculations, and so that you know that there's a benefit, cost benefit.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So say 1.5 million ratepayers are paying for this. So I guess my question was, should the ratepayers be paying for a rebate?
Well, that's generally the way our entire portfolio of energy efficiency programs runs, and I have a management presentation later to go at it from the top end, from the portfolio level. We have a variety of programs in that portfolio with the stated purpose and principle is of serving all customers in our service territory with something, with energy efficiency opportunity. And we've got significant rate pressure, as you know, and there's energy efficiency opportunity across all customer segments. And so we have something for all customers. All customers pay into it through rates. We don't have a setup where we only target these customers for energy efficiency, but we only charge them for energy efficiency, in which case it wouldn't really pencil out. We take a portfolio-wide view of the needs of the entire customer base, market segments, residential, non-residential, low income, medium income, high income, make sure we have programs for each, and then balance out the funding amounts to make sure we're getting the proportional benefit across the portfolio from those various market segments, but making sure we're also investing in each of those segments to try to maximize their ability to take advantage of these programs.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that actually until I read the background information, that the ratepayers actually are paying for these rebates. Mm-hmm. You know, I just bought a new refrigerator, made sure it was energy efficient, and I just, hey, that's great, you know. Didn't realize,
yeah,
you know, where that, and of course the store can charge whatever they want because, you know, you say, well, I'm getting $200 back, that's great. And then,
yeah, pricing the rebates is an art, but we're reviewing it constantly. If the rebate's too high, you can subsidize the market to maintain the prices high. If the rebate's too low, you may not get any traction in the marketplace. It's an ongoing process, but we see it in the solar incentive setting process as well. And it's standard in California that, actually, with the energy efficiency programs, utility-administered energy efficiency programs are funded by the ratepayers. That's standard. So the IOUs have the same.
Well, the business is still, the company is still getting the same amount of money.
The one selling.
Selling, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And the customer gets the rebate. Yeah, but it is definitely motivating.
Well, yes, the incentive is designed to buy down that incremental cost of the higher efficiency equipment.
Let me ask you this. I'm an advocate for energy efficiency projects, but I'm not completely convinced on this particular program, so maybe you can change my mind. But we spoke earlier today about how every piece of equipment has a lifespan, and being a homeowner, it kind of comes with the territory that your refrigerator is going to die out sooner or later. And is it not correct to say that now when somebody goes to buy a refrigerator, most of them are energy efficient to begin with? So these refrigerators that are being replaced would have to be replaced anyway by the owners of those pieces of equipment, and wouldn't they be forced to buy energy efficient refrigerators?
These, on the surface, yes, I would agree. This program is largely targeted. You'll see most of the investment is in the exchange program, the low-income exchange program. And within those types of customers, so you'll hear measure life. You'll hear measure life 10 years or 15 years on a refrigerator. Now, what that really means, that doesn't mean that these customers are replacing it like clockwork when it hits 15 years.
Right.
And you have variability in how long the refrigerators last. But generally, they last. The minimum they last is that 10 to 15 year range. So what happens is customers keep them until they fail. So while the measure life, the official measure life might be, and this is the reliable measure life, might be 10 years or 12 years, they keep them 20 years or 30 years until they fail. So this motivates those customers, well, and because they're low income, they may not have the means to discretionarily replace the refrigerator. That's why they run it until it goes out. It is true that there's more and more Energy Star product on the market. And so it's much easier to, when you go to the store, purchase a refrigerator that's already high efficiency. So for the folks making the discretionary purchase of a refrigerator, it's likely, just through random chance, that they will pick a higher efficient model, just because the market is well represented with high efficiency units. But this program, the bulk of this on the low income refrigerator exchange program, isn't going after the folks that have the wherewithal to make a discretionary refrigerator replacement. It's going for the folks that are limping their 10. In fact, the program has a minimum 10-year requirement for the existing equipment, and it has to be operating. So we're going after those that are perhaps past their design life, but aren't getting replaced because of the socioeconomic characteristics of the household.
Well, I've been very supportive of trying to assist the demographics in our lower socioeconomic groups here in Los Angeles. But I think given a time when we're asking ratepayers to potentially look at, well, not potentially, but we are looking at increases in our rates due to infrastructure issues, due to state and federal regulations, I could understand why the average ratepayer may not feel so fond about subsidizing this particular program, especially when there are other things that we do for this demographic group. And I not only question doing it now, but I also question the fact that we're suggesting to expand the program, and I don't know if this is the right economic climate to do so at this time.
We're suggesting to expand the program in scope in terms of piloting a few other initiatives, a few other equipment appliances besides refrigerators. But in fact, this is actually a smaller program than the previous 3-year program we had through ARCA, which was a $42 million contract. This is only 25. And the reason for that is that we are starting to see a higher level of saturation in the target market. And so we've downscaled this one a little bit on the basis of that.
And there's a typo in the memo because it says the continuation and the expansion. The other thing too is it talks about the rigorous competitive bid process, yet only 2 respondents are outlined. The company that you're planning on buying the refrigerators from, is there some kind of discounted measure? Are we paying retail price? I mean, what kind of benefit are we getting for buying these thousands and thousands of refrigerators?
There's definitely a wholesale discount through ARCA. There's 2 respondents because these are the 2 primary utility service providers for this type of service nationwide. And ARCA is about the biggest one out here that does Southern California. The other one does work in other regions of the country. But in both cases, both companies can do the work, and both have wholesaler relationships for the bulk purchase of the refrigerators and appliances.
And what other utilities are participating in this program, and are they maintaining or expanding the program compared to previous years?
Good question. For the local publicly owned utilities, we had a list in here, but we don't. But Burbank, Pasadena, and I believe Glendale are participating.
At the same level that we are, or?
Well, not at $26 million, but at a level that's commensurate, that's proportional. And Southern California Edison and SoCal Gas do this, and they do it through ARCA as well at similar rates, and similar, proportionally similar volumes.
I just want to, I do like this program myself, and I think that it's a great, in an era where we have our own public relations issues, I think that this is a great way to make sure that all ratepayers view us as doing some type of equity, and it's a fractional amount when you look at it on a year-by-year basis. So I would just encourage continued outreach, use publications like The Wave, The Sentinel, La Opinion to reach into some of the areas that may be continually underserved and could benefit from, $200 is a big deal in their monthly budget. So, thank you.
Is there a motion in support?
So moved.
I second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Oppose.
Did you vote?
Abstention.
Commissioner Noonan votes no. Commissioner Barad abstains. It's passed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners.
Item 21, authorization for the general manager to take necessary steps to further the development of a joint powers authority with the one or more Southern California water agencies to finance certain water projects.
I'll be speaking on this item. You'll recall that at the November meeting, we brought to you an informational memorandum on this topic. This presentation today is really just one more step in the process towards forming this JPA. We would intend to bring to you at the January meeting an ordinance that would actually authorize and request the formation of the JPA. So this is just kind of a check-in along the way, and we're asking for your support of the resolution that directs the general manager to actually go prepare that ordinance, finalize the outreach to the JPA partners, finalize the JPA agreement with those partners, and to bring a package to you so that we can move forward with this important step to save ratepayers money by financing projects at a lower cost.
Do you need a motion on that?
We would support a motion, yes.
Are there questions, comments? General Manager, have anything to say?
No, yeah, I just would like to reiterate briefly what we indicated in our last meeting. It's just a reminder. This is a mechanism that we just talked about the costs associated with Owens Lake, for example. We've spoken about the major program that we will be undertaking in the future on groundwater cleanup in the San Fernando aquifer. This mechanism allows us to finance that at a significantly reduced cost to our customers, and as a result, undertake those efforts that we are regulatorily mandated to do, and at the same time reduce the cost of what it would otherwise be if we didn't have this mechanism. I'm just asking for your approval of this resolution, which enhances our ability to move forward expeditiously with other partners to then come back with that ordinance for your approval.
So is there any reason not to move in this direction? What would be the arguments against?
I'm unaware of any.
Do any commissioners have any comments or questions? Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
You were both very persuasive.
Thank you. Appreciate your support.
Okay, we have 3 more items. One is item 22. One is, I would just like to make a request on the letter that was delivered to me from the mayor earlier this morning, that we agendaize this suggestion of the mayor at our next meeting, and then we can act upon the suggestion. And then thirdly, we'll go back to item 18. But before we do that, status report, status update, discussion of and possible action on matters pertaining to the Joint Safety Institute and Joint Training Institute. I turn to the general manager.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to give you an update on, we've had a number of discussions over the past few months on the status of the audit and independent review of the Joint Trust, the Joint Safety Institute, the Joint Training Institute. On November 26th, the City Controller forwarded a letter to those 2 trust organizations requesting initiating an audit and asking that the trust designate a person to be the contact person for dealing with the controller on that audit. Earlier in November, I had requested a meeting of the trust, and December 11th was the earliest time that we could have that trust meeting of the trustees, I should say, and determines that the trustees actually needed to meet in order to act in response to the controller's November 26th request. And we did have that discussion on December 11th at the trust. The outcome of that was that there are, of course, union members of that trust, and there are DWP management members of that trust. The union members of the trust voted not to cooperate with the controller's request, and I and the other DWP management members voted that the trust should cooperate with the controller's request, and thus we are, under the terms of the trust agreements, under both those trust agreements, a deadlock. And under the terms of the trust agreements, in the event of a deadlock of this nature, which to my knowledge is the only such one that's occurred, one party can request arbitration on a relatively expedited basis, and we are requesting that process begin. We'll be formally providing that request. Requested that, noted that orally at the meeting. We'll follow up in writing on that. In addition, separate legal counsel is process being retained for the DWP management trustees. That hasn't existed in the past. I note that President Levine and I have had some discussions as to whether we should ask counsel. This would be separate counsel, that is, not counsel here. That's legal counsel, is to make clear of that. If there's anything that precludes the department, management members of the trust from actually withholding approvals of checks that the union pays. There has to be approval by a union trustee and by a management trustee on that. So we'll be inquiring as to, pending this deadlock issue, and whether that is an option of the management side of the trustee withholding approval on those checks as we try to get resolution here. Now, while I'm unaware of any specific inappropriate use of trust funds, the funding that goes into these trusts are monies that come from our ratepayers. And I think that the information that has been requested is appropriately provided on this. And I've been frustrated in the ability to be able to get that information now. I don't have personally the full access to the full range of information that the controller's requested, but I believe that he should be given access to that information that he has requested. And I have to tell you, I don't agree with the stiff arm approach that's been undertaken by union members of the trust on this. I don't think it's in the interest of our customers. I frankly don't think it's in the interest of the trust on this. And you'll be aware, at least from my perspective, that LEWP is going to fully comply with the request of the controller on these matters.
Well, I thank you for your report, and I thank you for your efforts. I must say personally that it is inconceivable to me as to why any of the trustees of this trust would not cooperate with our request and the controller's request that the expenditure of these funds be made public. As you've indicated, they are ratepayer funds, and it's simple common sense that public funds should be transparent in terms of their expenditure, and that when these requests have been made and when we needed to go so far as to request that the controller perform this audit, I would think it would be automatic that people who are entrusted with spending public funds would agree that there should be transparency with regard to these expenditures. I appreciate your efforts, and I appreciate your assistance in seeking from your new council information as to whether there's anything that precludes the DWP management members of the trust from withholding approvals of checks. I just learned in the last couple of days that checks that are written by these trusts need the approval of both a labor trustee and a management trustee. And in light of the fact that the management trustees are doing all they can to seek the trust cooperation with this highly appropriate auditing request by the controller, I'm going to make a motion that if council, I'm going to make a three-part motion. First, if council responds that there is nothing that precludes the DWP management members of the trust from withholding approvals of checks until the union trustee members cooperate with the controller, I'm going to move that the management trustees withhold approvals of checks until the union trustees members cooperate with the controller on the audit. Secondly, I'm going to move as a second part of the motion that if there is any legal reason that precludes the DWP management members from withholding approval, that the management members keep a record of each check that is approved, the purposes of the expenditure, and report that back to the board on a monthly basis. And thirdly, and I would hope that there would be no resistance to this from any of the trustees, I would ask that the board direct the management trustees to do all that they can to ensure that all records are retained with regard to any expenditures that have occurred at any time, so that they can be made available to the controller's auditors. Is there a second to that motion? Second. I don't have anything much beyond that to say, other than it's extraordinary to me that simply seeking information about how public funds have been expended requires this type of an effort. And I want to be very clear that I know that the members of this commission are united in ensuring that we will help the controller and the public to learn how these funds have been expended, and we will not stop helping until we have that information. Do other commissioners have comments?
A comment, I guess, on the second. I just had a quick question. You referenced having to hire out, or having a conversation about having to hire outside counsel.
Correct.
And the purpose of that would be?
To be able to represent the management members of the trustees, because that's a different hat that we wear specifically as managers of DWP.
And that's an area where the city attorney feels they're not able to represent?
Well, it would be inappropriate because you're talking about their fiduciary duty, the trustees' fiduciary duty to the trust.
But they sit on the trust as representatives of the DWP, correct?
Yeah, they wear two hats, but they're put on the committee as DWP management representatives or trustees by DWP, but their fiduciary duty is to the trust, so they would need counsel to advise them relative to the trust and the trust agreements, terms and conditions.
I mean, I hope that the ratepayers are paying attention to this. This is insanity that, not your comments, Mr. Brown, this is insanity that you, Mr. Nichols, and the other two representatives, trustees who are at the top of the DWP have to retain counsel that we then are going to have to pay for. The ratepayers are going to have to pay for, right? Because, yes?
Yeah, but excuse me for interrupting, but I wanted you to hear the last part. The trust agreement provides for an attorney representing the trustees. The union trustees have elected to hire their own attorney. So what we're doing here is the management trustees would like one attorney representing all of the trustees, but now they cannot, so they're seeking their own.
Right, but at the end of the day, there's still ratepayer dollars going to hire attorneys to represent folks who are doing the right job on this trust panel, right, to be trustees.
But funded by the trust.
Right, and the trust is funded by? Thank you. And at the end of the day, we're having to do this because one person, I mean, let's really be honest here, right? One person has decided that he simply can't be honest and transparent, right? Let's really just cut to the chase here. And every day that we've come to these meetings, one of the things that I most value about the folks here is that when something goes wrong, folks sitting at that table, Mr. Nichols, everybody steps up and says, you know what, this thing didn't quite work out. We're going to try to fix it. Everybody is honest and above board. And when we've been out in the field, every single DWP employee that I've ever met goes to work every day wanting to do their job, do a better job. Those folks wake up every morning now and look in the newspaper or turn on the radio, and because of the actions of one person, right, the actions of one person, this department is tainted, their reputations as DWP employees is tainted. It's beyond comprehension, Mr. President. So I resent having to pay, as a ratepayer, as a member of this commission, I resent having to pay for lawyers to represent folks who are simply doing their job to provide documents that are the public's documents to see to the public. And I hope folks realize that it is not the fine men and women of the DWP who deserve ire over this. It is simply one bully who can't face reality. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say that every day that goes by, it looks worse. And where there's smoke, there's fire. And I don't understand why the union boss doesn't see that.
Well, I think that we have a bunch of perplexed and angry board members, and that the comments of the other commissioners certainly reflect the views of this board. Those in favor, well, let's see. Has the motion been, I said I would make the motion. I think it was seconded. It was seconded. Those in favor of this motion?
Aye.
Aye.
It's approved unanimously.
Thank you.
We'll communicate that in writing to the management representatives of the trust. Okay, we will now go back to item 18. Not quite sure where we should take this up at this point.
I believe there's some added clarification and modification of the resolution that's being sought. It might be helpful, Marty and Julie, to give, for the benefit of the commissioners, a quick recap of the issue and the resolution that we are proposing. The resolution in the resolution, I guess I would say.
Well, I think the background,
Right.
a little bit of background would be helpful here.
As a little bit of background, Julie Riley for the City Attorney's Office. We've been informed that certain regulatory agency is in the midst of proposing conditions for a permit or a regulatory agreement that would be, in the city's opinion, unreasonable and would ultimately impact the amount of water that is left out on Owens Lake as a part of achieving the Phase 7A project. The Phase 7A project was designed to be a water neutral project. It was designed and agreed upon most recently this past summer with Great Basin for it to be a project that protected habitat and conserves water for the city in a joint manner. The regulatory agency that the city is dealing with is on notice from the city's representatives that these permit conditions are not the type of permit conditions that would be most beneficial to the state's water use and are not the preferred way of the city accomplishing this project. And because of that, we would recommend that the city's representatives be given an opportunity to work out those conditions and the general manager be authorized to sign this contract only upon the resolution of these outstanding issues so that the permit conditions that the city has are reasonable.
Just a point of clarification, that agency is the California Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Just to remove some of the mystery. You know, the Great Basin Board and LADWP have been working cooperatively to implement this project, and we have made several agreements that got us here, and we take these deadlines seriously. These unresolved permitting issues could potentially require that LADWP leave more water on the lake in perpetuity. This development is deeply concerning and completely contrary to what we've been discussing with Great Basin. This project was designed to conserve water and protect habitat at the same time, and we don't want to jeopardize these goals. So in light of this, I would move that we amend the resolution to authorize the general manager to sign this contract only upon the resolution of permit conditions that are both reasonable and consistent with those that are offered to other entities. Is there a second to the amendment?
Second.
So that item 18 is amended now with that limitation on the authorization.
With the condition.
With the condition.
Yeah.
Is there other discussion on 18 at this point?
I was just wondering if the words "with the condition that" should be inserted to make it maybe a little clearer.
That would be fine. I think that would
sharpen it.
Sharpen it. Comfortable with that, Mr. General Manager?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Thank you very much. Appreciate that clarification and the direction.
Any other discussion on this item? Those in favor of the amended resolution?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Thank you. We go to management reports, and then we'll go to closed session. We have one speaker card on management report number 23. Barbara?
Yes, the speaker is Cynthia Stratham.
Good afternoon. My name is Cynthia Strathman. I am a research and policy analyst with the Los Angeles Alliance for a New Economy, that's LANE. We're a member of the Repower LA Coalition, and we wanted to come today to just applaud the Department of Water and Power on being a leader in energy efficiency and in doing that in a way that really addresses Los Angeles' customer base. Close to 40% of the residents here live below twice poverty, what we call real poverty, and many small businesses are really struggling to get by. Energy and water conservation are the best ways for people to keep their bills low. It is the cheapest alternative to dirty energy, and it's also, if done correctly, a great way to create good jobs. The Department of Water and Power, along with IBEW Local 18, has created what has become a model program around the country, the Utility Pre-Craft Trainee Program, which is putting people to work doing energy efficiency upgrades while also creating a future workforce for the department. Because there are so many benefits to this type of work, because it has environmental benefits, job creation benefits, and lowers people's bills, this work by the department has been supported by a very broad coalition of community members, by environmentalists, by members from labor, by community groups, by small businesses, by neighborhood council representatives. They've all been behind this investment. Senior staff has been very responsive about coming out to the community and including their voices in this planning process. We really look forward to working with you to grow this investment in energy efficiency, and we really applaud your efforts. We think it's great that the city, especially people who are really struggling, that everybody is going to benefit from these kinds of energy efficiency programs. So thank you very much.
Thank you. It's a very welcome comment. Who is going to provide this report? Mr. Chacot.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Okay, this is going to be an update on our energy efficiency programs, both in the short term and the long term, and our long-term vision for energy efficiency in the department and in the city of Los Angeles. So why energy efficiency? Why the big focus on energy efficiency? And I'll give you some bullets and numbers on this page, and we'll look at some graphs on the next one that I think are pretty illustrative. But first and foremost, we've adopted a goal and a plan to get off of coal-fired generation by 2025. We've done this to demonstrate environmental leadership. We've done it to comply with AB 32, 2 years ahead of schedule, and that means replacing what today is about 33% of our power supply with other supply options. What are those options? Generally, they're natural gas, renewables, and energy efficiency. We think of energy efficiency as a supply-side option. The power we don't need to generate or supply through efficiency efforts reduces what we have to replace in what we're losing with coal. We also have a state mandate in renewables to have 33% of it, 33% of our power supply come from renewables by qualifying renewables by 2020. And we've set a goal, we've adopted a goal through this board, through a previous board, to get 10% of our anticipated supply needs in 2020 through energy efficiency. Within renewables and energy efficiency, those two combined then comprise at least 43% of the power supply needs by 2020. 33% on renewables and the 10% target we've set, the goal we've set for energy efficiency. By the time we're off coal, it's going to be more. How much more? These two charts are pretty illustrative and paint the picture of 2010 versus 2020. The 2010 scenario, this was our power supply mix in 2010. And you see coal was 39% then. We're down to 33% now. Natural gas was 22. Energy efficiency we call zero. It wasn't. We've been doing energy efficiency for decades, but we're considering 2010 the starting point for this metric. That's why energy efficiency shows it's zero. It was not considered part of the supply side mix in 2010. Renewables were at 20%, and then a few other pieces: power purchase, nuclear, hydro. So if you look at 2020, you see that we've gotten coal down to 25% from 39%. Natural gas is held largely flat. Energy efficiency has appeared. That's our 10% goal. And renewables are 33%. That's the Renewable Portfolio Standard, the RPS. Other is very small. Nuclear is lower a little bit. Hydro is a little more. Project this out in your minds to 2025. And that 25% coal piece goes away. What replaces it? Well, looking at what nuclear is doing, I doubt that's going to significantly ramp up. Hydro is about tapped as well in terms of large dam sites that are politically accessible. So it's a combination of natural gas efficiency and renewables. And the more efficiency grows, the less we need to purchase and build out natural gas plants, and the less renewables we need to fill that gap. And generally, as was mentioned earlier, energy efficiency is the least cost source of new generation. The kWh you don't have to buy is cheaper than having to supply that kWh. So I'm not going to answer that question right now as to how much more by 2025 we need in terms of renewables and energy efficiency, but you can see the drivers here in terms of the supply mix, and we'll be quantifying that through a process that I'll describe here in a bit. So again, we adopted a board goal, the board adopted a goal, 10% of supply needs expected in 2020 coming from energy efficiency. But at the same time we adopted that hard target, your predecessors, adopted a 15% target that is under review. So we've adopted as a hard goal 10% of supply needs coming from efficiency by 2020. We also committed to explore a 15% target, a 50% higher amount of energy efficiency by 2020, subject to an energy efficiency potential study that's currently underway. And an energy efficiency potential study is a rigorous market analysis of saturation of cost-effective energy efficiency measures by customer segment, by end use, by facility type. So it takes a deep dive, and that's underway currently. It takes a deep dive into how much of those measures, cost-effective measures, and the measures that are expected to be cost-effective in 2020 that may not be yet today, such as some elements of LED lighting. How much saturation do those already have in the marketplace? What's the baseline? How much potential is there? How much technical potential? And then economic potential. And there's like I said, that study is currently underway. The timeline for that is this winter, with a final report around the start of March. That will inform the goals we adopt and report to the CEC as part of our SB 1037 reporting that all the publicly owned utilities are required to do, to set targets, 10-year rolling targets for energy efficiency on the basis of an energy efficiency study that's performed every 3 years. This is in satisfaction of that compliance item, but more importantly, it's to inform the level of energy efficiency investment that we make going forward if it's above and beyond the 10% that we've already committed to. Either one of those goals takes a sustained effort, and that's really the picture that I'll draw with this, and then the next slide, which is more graphical again in nature. In fiscal years 2010 and 11, and 11 and 12, we achieved about 0.5%. In 2012-13, we ramped up. We're in the ramping up process now, so we ramped up significantly to 0.8%. But to get that 10% goal between 2010 and 2020 is going to require a sustained 1.2% per year reduction in energy consumption through energy efficiency between this fiscal year and the end point of this milestone time frame. That 1.2% reduction per year lands squarely in the range of the benchmark for what's considered traditionally successful energy efficiency programs in the industry nationwide, about 1 to 1.5%. That said, there are a couple of examples of higher performing entities. Massachusetts and Vermont are both closer to 2% per year in terms of reduction. So there's folks that go beyond this range of traditionally successful to new levels of success. But like I said, we'll be looking at about 1.2% a year to make that 10% target. And to support that, the board adopted budgets for last fiscal year and this fiscal year in the amounts of $127 million and $137 million. But the next slide shows this for that 10-year time frame. Annual EE budgets and goals 2010 to 2020. Fiscal years across the top. So the budgets, I've parsed those out as the actual recordeds for the first 3 fiscal years. The current year plan is that $137 million budget. And then the estimated budgetary requirements out to 2020. And same goes for the energy efficiency savings in gigawatt hours. Those were the actuals recorded the first 3 years. The current year plan 296 gigawatt hours, and roughly that continues, rolls out to 2019-20 as 300 gigawatt hours a year, and that makes the 10% target. That said, all these budgets and savings are subject to the outcome of that potential study. And if the potential study indicates that a 15% target is cost effective, and if the city and LADWP then decides to pursue the 15%, then obviously these targets go up and the budgetary requirements go up commensurately. Okay, so that's dollars and KWH, but we leverage these investments we make in energy efficiency for more than just the energy efficiency, more than just the raw gigawatt hour reduction. We seek to undertake and support a number of policy aims through energy efficiency. One of the things I've always loved about energy efficiency is that it's one of the few public policy type interventions that has a dollars and cents business case behind it. You can generate a net present value from it. You can generate a net return on investment, and that's by making the investment today to improve efficiency, you get cost savings over time, and you get a future cash flow of avoided costs, both for the utility and for the customers. And that can be net present valued back, and that's through that cost effectiveness calculation I mentioned earlier on the other board item. And so we do that, and it's known in states that have a heavy policy imperative for energy efficiency that we do more with energy efficiency than just go after the low-hanging fruit. We try to ensure equitable customer access to efficiency. We leverage our investments in energy efficiency for skilled job creation for the local workforce. We're transparent in how we run these programs, and we leverage these programs also to help the community build the capacity to promote and drive energy efficiency in the various communities and neighborhoods of the city. This is pretty standard to how energy efficiency programs are run in California, period, whether it's a POU or an investor-owned utility. When I was at Edison, we ran these programs with these as de facto guidelines, but it wasn't formalized. One of the exciting things we did here early on at DWP, in other words, in summer of 2012, was develop a series of 8 guiding principles that essentially, say those 4 bullet points, a little bit more detail. We developed this with broad stakeholder support between the mayor, the political establishment, the environmental community, labor and workforce development allies, and the business community. And this is that broad coalition of support for energy efficiency. And we formally adopted it through this board on a 5-0 vote. And what that really put in place was a formal acknowledgement that, yes, we do energy efficiency to get us off coal and make those GHG reductions, but also the gigawatt hour targets that I laid out previously. But we also leverage the return on that investment. In other words, we take some of that return on investment that's net present valued from those avoided cost future flows. We take some of that and reinvest it in other things. And what those other things are is what we've adopted through the guiding principles here. So how do we then do a detailed plan to do all that? How do you do that? How do you operationalize that? Through what we call the Energy Efficiency Portfolio Business Plan. And this is a detailed plan running about 200 pages that lays out what customer segments, how each customer segment, I shouldn't say what because we serve all customer segments, but how each customer segment is served, what programs are available for them, what's the path to market. Do we offer incentives, or do we do what we call direct install? And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But it charts the course. What it does is give us a detailed roadmap to make those 2020 targets, make the 10% goal. How do we get 300 gigawatt hours per year? Where's the opportunity? The potential study outlines that. We feed that into the business plan, which says there's a lot of opportunity in LAUSD, LA Unified. There may be a lot of opportunity in another customer segment, and we look at that and balance how that budget is allocated across programs to both make the goal, but also support the guiding principles. And the business plan, that portfolio business plan, is the sum of all that, and that's why it's fairly detailed. This is also analogous to something that the IOUs do. When the IOUs file their funding requests with the California Public Utilities Commission, they attach their program implementation plans, which are a little bit less, a little bit smaller scope than a business plan, but ostensibly the same thing. That is a very detailed process and document, and it lays out exactly how they plan to go after every customer segment. Theirs tend to run 2,000 pages, ours runs 200 pages, so a key innovation is you can actually hold ours in one hand, but it still has all the necessary detail to give you that level of a roadmap of how you get to that goal. So we did the first version last year. That was a 2-year plan, and we published it in early 2013. And this fall, we've spent updating that, and we plan to update it annually, and that's version 2.0. It is now a 7-year plan. It's on track for delivery in early 2014, and it's already drafted and being circulated for stakeholder review and input. It'll never be finalized. It's a living document. So if we get it, if we have it substantially inputted to and revised in February, and then the potential study indicates a higher level of opportunity that we decide to invest in, that will change the business plan. We will immediately go into the business plan and look at the numbers and see what we have to add to achieve the 15% target. And then the business plan becomes the roadmap to a higher target, if it's 15, whatever it is, if it's higher than 10% by 2020. Living document. Okay, so how within the business plan or within individual programs do we design programs? And how do we design market interventions that motivate customers to undertake energy efficiency? Well, rule number 1, we start with the customer in mind. Different customers have different needs. They have different barriers. That's why we look at the market. We have to develop tailored strategies that overcome as many of the market barriers that exist to the adoption of energy efficiency as possible. So we have to start by market segmentation and characterization. And we're looking at residential customers, commercial customers, industrial. We've also got low, moderate, fixed income customers. And broadly, we've segmented these into 2 super segments, and we've organized the portfolio around those 2. Mass market for residential and small business customers, and medium, large, commercial, industrial, and institutional customers. You met Steve Starks, who's our portfolio manager for the mass market, and then I have Lucia Alvarez is our portfolio manager for the medium, large, commercial, industrial, institutional. Within those, there's many subsegments. Single-family home, there's just a few here as examples. Single-family, multifamily, condos, retail, office, schools, industrial, institutional, manufacturing, city facilities, run the gamut. And they all have different specific barriers. Now, in general, though, barriers to the adoption of energy efficiency can be categorized as awareness, knowledge, and funding. A lack of awareness of what energy efficiency is, what it can do for a customer, that they may have opportunity within their individual facility. Awareness covers all those. On the knowledge side, once a customer has awareness that they have opportunity for energy efficiency, technical knowledge, what to do, what's a measure that's going to save me energy, and how much is it going to save over what I've got now, quantifying that benefit. Finally, once that's known, funding, capital. And the traditional strategies to overcome these, marketing, education, outreach, raises awareness. Technical assistance and recommendations assist with the knowledge gap, bridge the knowledge gap, and incentives and direct installation bridge the funding gap. And direct installation is for our low, moderate, and fixed income customers generally that have the need but don't have the wherewithal at all to undertake energy efficiency upgrades discretionarily. Just can't do it. And so direct install is we identify the customer, get them to agree to allow them to give something to them, and then we go back and actually install it. The low-income refrigerator exchange program is a direct installation program, but also our home energy efficiency program is a direct installation program that does weatherization. It does weatherization for our low, moderate, fixed income customers. And once we've identified what the barriers are and these strategies, we can then customize these strategies into customer-facing programs that target each segment, each sub-segment's specific needs. And so that takes us back to the portfolio business plan itself, which is a collection of programs. But the programs are customer facing, and they're bundles of strategies to overcome the market barriers for each particular segment. And so that bundle of strategies becomes a program. But the program is customer facing, customer defined. So for example, we'll have let me give you an example. We'll have the customized program for commercial, industrial, and institutional customers. And so that allows us to target to the various needs and the various types of energy efficiency measures that those customers can benefit from. We can bundle those offerings with our technical assistance and really help drive comprehensive energy efficiency in their facilities. So just at a high level, we've got about 20 programs active now. There's a couple more that are coming. We've put in place a number of joint programs with the gas company. We have about a third of our budget is dedicated to the mass market and 2/3 is dedicated to medium-large customers. That is allocated in rough proportion to the percent of retail that each of those super segments consumes. In other words, of the load we deliver, of the 24,000 gigawatt hours we deliver annually, about 8,000 goes to the mass market, and about the other 12,000 goes to, or the other 16,000, goes to the large commercial, industrial, institutional customers. With that said, we also have the portfolio allocated roughly 50-50 between incentive approaches and direct install approaches, because we have tremendous need in the city, not just with low-income residential customers, but with low, moderate, fixed-income residential customers, and what we consider low, moderate, fixed-income business customers and institutional customers. Small businesses are generally low to moderate income customers, and so a big push for us is to serve those customers through the direct install approach. LAUSD is an institutional customer that also warrants a direct install approach, and we have a significant direct install approach with them. So between those two segments, if you split it that way, we've got about 50-50 dedicated to an incentive approach and the other half to a direct install approach. There's a lot of details that go behind that. That's where the business plan comes in. It explains every one of those programs. It explains who it's targeting, what the strategy, what the barriers are, what the strategy is, what's going to be done to overcome that. Budget and goals for all the programs rolled up in an executive summary that lays out at a high level the details of that roadmap to achieve the 2020 targets, while still supporting all of the guiding principles that have been adopted. And all good management, as good management, we know we get what we measure, and so we have a KPI process in place, key performance indicator, and a sample of that, of the latest one, it was in your board package, that shows you how we track our progress. We set those goals, 7-year goals in the business plan, and I update the business plan once a year, but I track the program results throughout the year, and so I can see if the portfolio is on track, and if not, then drill down to individual programs that are falling behind, and then take corrective action on a per program basis to ensure we're staying on track. As of October, which as of press time for the board package that you have was the last full and reviewed KPI report we have data showing that we are on track on both results and a little underspent in budget, which is good. We're making the targets and a little underspent in budget. And that concludes my presentation, but we'll open it up for questions.
Very comprehensive. Questions? I've got one question just in general. Does the state still offer any kind of tax incentives for energy efficiency, either to individuals or businesses?
I'm not aware that the state does. The federal government does. And they have things that come and go on pretty short notice, and I believe there's some that are drying up at the end of this year. I'm not aware of the state offering incentives on energy efficiency. They support it through tax credits. They support energy efficiency through a lot of other means, like requiring the utilities to support it and allowing for the ratepayer funding of it. But I'm not aware of state tax credits.
I have a parochial interest in it because I was the author of California's conservation tax credit when I was in the Assembly in the 1970s. and it had a sunset provision on it. It's been long ago sunsetted, but I wondered whether it ever got reenacted. Does it make sense to encourage something? Would that make a difference these days, or would it not matter so much?
Anything helps. Any state or federal support for energy efficiency outside the scope of our ratepayers funding it through our collection mechanism is something that would help. But of course, when it comes to state funding, general fund, it's a zero-sum game. So
I've noticed.
Mr. President, I'm glad you asked that question, because one of the things that a number of the utilities are looking at is the prospect of, right now we have the primary driver of reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. There's two. It's energy efficiency, which, while as Mr. Jaco explained, there's a goal and there's legislation out there to get to 10% reduction by 2020, and the board has adopted that goal and looking at the prospect of a higher target. There's today no absolute penalties if you don't get there, although I anticipate that will be coming at some point in time. Renewable portfolio standards are the other way to get there, and there are penalties that are still being fine-tuned right now if you don't get to that point. I'm really interested, and I think a number of the utilities are interested in the prospect of establishing something that would be more broadly a clean energy standard that would embrace renewable energy, energy efficiency, electrifying parts of our transportation industry to reduce emissions there where it's both cost effective and on a net energy basis a good thing to do. So I'm hopeful those sort of things are all going to come together in a manner that we can, if our overall goal is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and become more sustainable, all of those things I think need to come together, and we've had kind of prescriptive things that have come in bits and pieces as opposed to a collective standard that gets there. So I think you'll be hearing more about that concept in the future in the coming year.
Good. Good. Other questions, comments? Thank you very much for a very thoughtful and thorough report. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioners. President.
Council, do you want to tell us what we're going to discuss in closed session?
I'll give you a broad caveat. The board shall now go into closed session and publicly report any action taken in closed session and the vote or abstention of every member present thereon in accordance with Section 54 and 957.1 of the California Code. You'd think I'd know it by heart by now, but no.
Thank you very much. So we'll adjourn into closed session.
No.